Hello, 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 everyone. This is the Political Matrix. I am your host, Young Morpheus, or Marcus, for those if you like. Um, I am here with a very, very special guest, the host of Socks and Sandals podcast, Mr. Emmanuel Williams. Um, he he gets into a lot of uh, pro black pro black content and covering a lot of different stories where I think don't get a lot of attention, need to. And he actually had a very, very interesting video which went viral that really caught my attention where I first came across Emmanuel, where he was talking to the very famed and esteemed Jane Elliott. And I've seen many interviews with her, just like most people. But the way he phrased a lot of these questions and the way he came at it from a lot of different angles that I wasn't expecting was very impressive. So without further ado, Emmanuel, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience? And then we'll get further into the interview and then some of the other topics that we have to talk about.
No doubt, man. But yeah, appreciate you, Marcus, for reaching out and bringing me on your show, bro. It's an honor to share this stage with you. And once again, my name is Emmanuel Williams, host and creator of the Socks and Sandals podcast, which I launched back in 2017. It's where society, culture, history, and religion collide, and we unapologetically discuss our worldviews. And so I'm born and raised in straight out of Portland, Oregon, still out here on the West Coast. Grew up here, graduated high school here, went to college in Texas. So went to Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas, man. Shout out to all my Tigers. And came back home, had a kid, bought a house, family, got rooted, and we here, we chilling, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, so I have the podcast. I have a professional development company that I just launched last year, Universal Professional Development, that focuses on culturally relevant professional development. I have a 8-week cohort-based course of like 10 to 12 folks. It's called Know Your Enemy, the Evolution of Racism. It's a deep dive into the evolution of racism, what it is and how it works. I'll talk about the establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement stages of racism. So not only showing what it is, giving a clear view of what it is based upon history and the way the laws were constructed, but also giving what I call ultimate counter-racism strategy to get out of that system, to reframe and reshape how we identify and how we interact with the system, to go against it and break it down, bit by bit. But yeah, it's a little bit about me, bro. But excuse me, but I appreciate you once again for having me on. I can't wait to dive in, bro.
No, after hearing a little bit more about like your company and some of the things which you're doing, it's a lot of conversations which I definitely want to have with you further on down the path,
Sure.
off camera and on camera, because I think that there's a lot that people need to hear from individual thinkers like yourself who notice a problem, and instead of only focusing on nagging about the problem, I'm not going to go into who I'm talking about here, but there are some other channels where they do more just identifying a problem, complaining about the problem, and instead of trying to figure what can we do about some of this stuff. I mean, we can't fix it all, but what can we do about some of this? So we have a lot of different interests that I think are going to match up. Chris, I'll bring in my co-host. I'm waiting for the other Emmanuel, but Chris, how are we doing, brother?
What's good, man? Same old man, just working and not much else. Emmanuel, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? Chris? Nice to meet you.
Much. We got to call him E-Dub since we already got E on the show.
That works. That works.
So, but I'm glad you're here, man. Marcus, but same old thing. We had talked, just working and, just that's it. Just watching the world go nuts around me, trying to stay sane in there. Sometimes you wonder, like, if everything around you is fake and you know anything real, like, aren't you the problem? You know what I mean? So it's just one of those.
Everybody about your ventures this week.
Oh, crazy story. I mean, I'm here, so obviously the end part. But what was that? Wednesday, I want to say. Yeah, no, Thursday. So I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, right? Total opposite side of the world from you, Emmanuel. So it was I don't know if you watched basketball, but that was the draft night. So I'm on the phone and I have my earpiece in my ear and I'm looking at my phone as I'm talking to my homeboy. Yeah. So I'm talking to my homeboy on the phone. We talking about the draft, the trades, and all this other stuff. My car is parked right behind. Like my car is here, the other person's car is here. So I see the girl walking. I don't pay her really much mind. I'm in my own world. So she gets in her car. I walk past her car. She holding a gun, like just holding a gun randomly pointed at the at her windshield. So I'm just looking with the crazy face, like, yo, this. And I'm telling my homeboy who's in my ear, keep in mind, like, yo, this crazy chick is in the car with a gun. But she wasn't pointing it at me. I ain't have any issue, whatever. I go to my car. Yo, she hops out and points the gun at me, talking about, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad day. And I'm looking at this chick, and I can't use all the words I really want to use.
Yeah.
This channel right now, but needless to say, she got the business verbally. I cursed her.
Was she black, white, Hispanic? What was going on? I mean, I gotta ask for the context. You know what I mean? I can't just assume.
But it was the skinniest white woman that I probably could have thrown from Florida to Oregon. Like I could have hit you on a fly route. That's how skinny she was.
That's
and
crazy.
she's pointing this gun at me, and she's saying, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad day. And I'm just like, yo, put your gun down. Like, and at this point, I'm like, if she gonna squeeze, she gonna get the business. So afterwards, she puts the gun down. She tells me it was fake, and I'm still heated, hot. Like, you playing games with me?
Like, do you think it was fake, bro?
That shit looked real as hell.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was as fake as the taser that cop pulled out in Minnesota on Dante Ray. I'm sure that's how fake it was.
Correct. Yeah. And the thing is, I saw her holding the gun in the car, and I even said to my man who was on the phone with, I was like, yo, this chick is just holding a gun in the car. She looked kind of crazy. And again, I didn't approach her, didn't say nothing to her. Like, she had absolutely no reason to hop out the car and point that damn gun at me. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show people not wrapped too tight. That's why I hate when people get guns sometimes, because they don't know how to act. I even seen with some of my own homeboys back home growing up, like, dude, you're not that tough. Oh, okay, now you got a gat on you. So now you're the toughest guy around. So I just hate sometimes the power that it makes people feel.
Yeah, a gun will do that to you if you already don't have a sense of like humility, or you're not securing yourself. A gun can make you feel like you invincible. You know what I mean? So
correct.
I got a few guns. I'm new to the gun game, but I know what that feeling is like. But it's like, I got my. But out here it's concealed carry. Out there, y'all can just like open carry, right?
Oh yeah, in Florida, it is what it is.
Yeah, like, man. So that's crazy, and it stands your ground, and you don't have to for the protection. So that's scary, bro. That's scary.
Well, it's like my homeboy I was on the phone with said. He was like, yo, imagine if you had a gun on you and you just turned around and let off on this woman. Like, it would have been just a super unfortunate situation for no reason. Like, we weren't even in each other's way. We had no problems. It just our cars were parked, behind, I was parked behind her. Not a big deal, no problem. But she hopped out. And it was just like, this is how situations get really, really, really bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's so convenient that she can have a bad day, and that equates to pointing a gun, and that absolves her of what she knows that she's doing is wrong. It's just it's wild how the white supremacist mind work, bro. They come up, their logic is something else, bro.
And the thing is, she had like a new model Jeep. I can't remember the type, but it was a new model vehicle. Mm-hmm. So, and then she tried to hit me with I was assaulted just a little while ago.
What does that have to do? What?
That had nothing to do with me. And it wasn't me. That day I had on a bright orange shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't me who did shit to you, lady. But, I mean, I'm here. It happened. I'm all right, obviously. But it was just crazy. I started to go online and say it, but I just put it in the chat for Marcus and shit. But that was just some wild stuff, man.
What
Hey,
up,
Hell,
Bill?
what's up? E, what up, man?
Hey, what's up, Chris? What's up, guys? I'm just running some technical difficulties with my video. I just want to say hi to Emmanuel right quick. I'm happy
Peace,
to have
brother.
another person named that, man. That's great, man.
Greatness, man.
Yeah, Chris, that story, Chris getting held up by the white lady, that's crazy, man. I'm sorry to hear that happened to you.
And
Well,
the whole time I kept thinking, like, if I rush this woman, put my hands on her, it's gonna end badly for her, right? But then it's gonna end badly for me because then it's just gonna be, black guy assaults little white woman, And if I'd have been like, yo, she had a gun, I would have been like, well, you didn't have to do that. So, but I'm just glad, I'm all right.
Hey, tell me this, Chris. How many people did she point a gun at while you guys were out there in the parking lot?
We were on the street, right?
We were on the street.
So, and there's other people walking because I live in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
So there was other people walking around. She ain't damn near hop out the car and point that shit at nobody, at anyone else. Just me.
Just you. Okay.
Just me.
Now, about politician said mental instability. That ain't mental instability.
As I'm getting into my
she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
She knew.
And that's the thing. I was going to my car, so it wasn't even like, well, you were approaching me and I was scared. I didn't know. Nah, you see me go to my car. You saw the little lights flash when I hit the thing. So it's just like I don't know what her issue was, but yeah, that was a crazy story of the week.
You see Elle's story here? She said, I got accosted by a woman I made eye contact with who was having a bad day a couple of weeks ago. She swung some sharp object at me. I was scared the rest of my walk to the store.
Damn.
And then remember what Frederick had happened?
Yeah, on the MARTA, he was on the MARTA. He was on his phone, tweeting or something, and like two young guys just walked right up, plucked his phone right out of his hand, and walked and ran off right when they pulled it to the station. He was like, it happened so quick, and he was just utterly shocked, and I was just like, wow. So he was like, it happened so fast.
It's wild out there. Like my family who's in Brooklyn, and they're like the parts of Brooklyn they don't show you and don't talk about. Like it's wild out there. Them boys, they on some. It's like back to 87, 86 outside, and it's so sad. You know what I'm saying? Because again,
what was he 5-10 minutes from home or something like that? He wasn't that far from home. He was like literally almost there. It's crazy.
I was like, I figure we should read this comment. Definitely. It's from Abolished Politicians. It says, I used to hate black people as a child because my father did. And so did his father. And I was abused. No excuses, but it's the truth. And that's what propagates a lot of this racism and this whole white supremacist system that we're in. I mean, it started somewhere, yes, but it has to be sustained somehow. And it gets sustained by the very people who are still walking around today, which either they have an active hand in it or they turn a blind eye to it because, oh, well, that's just my crazy old Uncle Joe. He's just saying a couple of racist words. But what they don't mention is, old crazy Uncle Joe is a judge also. And he throws black and brown people in prison all day long.
Or he's the bank manager or he's the loan officer, or he's the banker who denies loans and all that other shit, locks people up. He's the cop. He's the dude at the store who follows you around.
I think that's the real frightening thing about January 6th, because January 6th, so, it wasn't like some crazy racist hillbilly redneck. I mean, these people were doctors, they were lawyers, they were they served in the military. I think one of them was a policeman. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of, the rest of the world looking at white people, prominent white people, and thinking, is he a racist? Is she a racist? Are they afraid of, do I have to worry about this racist or that racist? And checking me out in the hospital or something like that. So I think that's what the real fear is from January 6th, not, domestic violence, domestic terrorism or something like whatever they're phrasing it as, so they don't have to blame white people. So,
well, what January 6th, all that was, and let's be honest, and I like to bring up this story. Trump, when he decided that he wanted to go over and he wanted to talk at the church, they had no problem assembling the National Guard to get a nice little tight little band around him to escort him across the street, just like that. Now, you're trying to tell me that they monitor all of these transmissions throughout Facebook and Twitter, through all the different things that people are saying, through a lot of their DMs also. Seeing, people book hotels in DC, seeing people get on planes, rent cars, see all these things. All these people are coming. You know how many people are coming. You know this far in advance. And for some reason, the only people that you leave there is the Capitol Police, and only a handful of them, what's basically will be a normal workload worth of officers. That should be something that we should all question. Another thing is, why wasn't at least one politician? I'm not saying that they should have been hurt, but we have over 435 politicians in that building. Not one single one of them was close to harmed. Doesn't that start? I mean, for me, it almost seems, it seems like there's a lot of questions. I'll leave it at that. What's some of your thoughts, fellas?
Well, Marcus, let me say this also, too. I know for a fact Vice had reporters embedded with some of those groups, as did the FBI. We know that the head guy of what's that group? Not the Bugaloo Boys, but the Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys.
We know the Spanish dude, the Cuban guy from here in Florida. We know that he's a snitch. He's working with the feds. So they knew what was going to happen well in advance. I'm sure there was other media companies who have reporters embedded with the groups too, who were going to DC. You mean to tell me that something violent was going to happen and none of them people said anything? So again, what happened was you had a political event. They moved it to the Capitol, and the actors ran inside the building and took a bunch of selfies. And through that act, now everybody's going to be called a domestic terrorist. And it's only the Democrats who are going to be able to push this, because obviously if it was done by Trump or any other Republican, just speaking in terms of pure partisan politics, it wouldn't fly. But if you've got, old man, Biden pushing this shit along with his Democratic Congress, people going to believe it.
Mm-hmm. Emmanuel, I have Emmanuel Williams, or I guess I could say Sox. I got a question for you. Some of the stuff which I've been hearing about them looking into domestic terrorists and stuff, a lot of times they focus on right-wing this, right-wing that. But every now and then I notice that they throw in race, extremists, and religion. Mm-hmm. And since I know that that's a topic which you cover and you go into also, I was wondering, have you noticed kind of like I don't want to say some kind of attack, but some kind of ratcheting up of pressure, or it seems like there's been kind of more eye on the faith community, especially the so-called Black and brown faith community.
Black and brown faith community in response to what exactly?
In response to some of these governmental agencies, maybe just messing with your Twitter accounts, or just information you've heard possibly in the news about certain things, that how they might want to start identifying and naming people, because I can't remember who it was. I think somebody with the State Department, and he was looking at, literally, he said that because overseas how they were tracking terrorists was through online, and what they were posting through their not YouTube, of course, but whatever channels they were using, whether it was Facebook or whatever. And so they've said that they need to take that approach stateside. So I was wondering if you had heard anything like that. I know I've been kind of hearing little whispers, and I'm just wondering if I'm on an island. That's all.
No, I mean, I haven't heard about anything to that sort recently. I mean, I know that, they've already taken into account like the Black identity extremists. They put that tag out there, but that was more or less like a couple years ago. I want to say like 2018, 2019, when Black Lives Matter kind of was rising up and doing their thing. But like as far as recently, I haven't heard about any Black or brown, Black Christian, whatever, Muslim. I haven't heard anything to that nature, especially in response to what happened January 6th.
Another question is that you brought up Black Lives Matter. What's some of your thoughts and kind of feelings on Black Lives Matter as of now?
Man, I mean, it's one of those things where it started out one way, and as politics does, it turns into something else. It gets hijacked. There's an interest convergence of, white liberals that want to attach their interest on the thing to kind of feel good, but also get their stuff pushed. And I'm talking about the LGBT folks that will support, but then like they'll have the signs and they'll have the flags, but then pretty soon it's going to be a rainbow behind that fist, and then they're going to change the narrative to Black Lives Matter to all Black Lives Matter, and then they're going to talk about LGBT. It always goes in that direction, and that's nothing new. Like that's been happening for quite some time, even with civil rights and all that. So, Black Lives Matter started out as one way, but the leaders didn't really seem to have any type of long-standing sticking power to stick to why they started it. And it is what it is. It kind of rose and fell. It turned into a nonprofit that just brings in a lot of money, but didn't create any constructive change for the community. So it's just one of those things where social media blew it up into what it is. The news took it, and now it's been used by white folks to term any Black person or any type of inner city violence as, oh, that's the Black Lives Matter stuff. And then any white progressives can attach that to themselves to feel like they're an ally or whatever. So it's just become a caricature of what it was. And it's just like a mascot for whatever somebody wants to make it into.
I know Chris has a couple of questions, or definitely a follow-up on that. But actually, no, Chris, I'll go ahead and let you ask, because I had another question which I want to ask. But go ahead, Chris. I know you asked a question. Oh, you're on.
Sorry, yeah, he hit the nail on the head, because I said the same thing. It went from Black Lives Matter to like Black LGBTQRS, LMNOP, ABCDEF, they matter too. And it was just kind of weird. And when you look at the money, who's funding them, who's behind it, it's very nasty. And then you look at these chicks, they balling now. They buying homes, multiple homes in exotic locations. You know what I'm saying? So I guess for them, it worked out really well. And if you saw all the videos from the people who were on the ground in Ferguson, who were kind of involved at first, but then got shunned or kicked out, the things they had to say, they were saying this, 4 years ago now, 5 years ago now? Or maybe a little less than that. But they were all saying
2014, 2015. Oh, okay. A long time ago, bro. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They were saying this a long time ago, and now here we are, faced with the reality. And it's also too meant to blunt any comment that you need to make or say against a particular community. Or I shouldn't even say against the community. I should say against the agenda that they are pushing. So if you do want to tell somebody who is trans, who's clearly a man, like, yo, bro, you're a man, it's like, oh, you can't say that, you're insensitive, cancel them. So, that was meant to make Black, especially men, like, yo, be quiet, don't be critical, just go over there, do what you do.
Yeah, when I did an episode on them back in, I want to say like 2018, and it was an episode breaking down their value statements on the website and like all the stuff that they was talking about as far as like, I get, creating a village, more village mentality. I'm with that. But when they were just talking about we're trying to destroy the nuclear family, as it stands, and it's like, that ain't got nothing to do with Black folks. Like what you want to destroy the nuclear family when black males are like not present in households, you want to create that as a norm. You want to, but it was more of like a destroy that so that we can usher in a new family that accepts LGBT and trans and all that. And I get like, I want everybody to be accepted, but I don't want that to be at the cost of let's destroy this man in the household and man being the leader of his family. There's nothing wrong with that. But the fact that I was on the website and that was one of their guiding principles, it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, why can't you have that agenda without it tearing down the black family? Why would that have to be in there to take apart the black nuclear family to accomplish this agenda? And it also reminded me of something in that interview you did with Jane Elliott. She talked about how white liberals, that they'll love to hop on a task for a moment and get behind a cause for a certain amount of time, and then they'll lose interest and then hop on to the next thing. And that's some of my thoughts with Black Lives Matter. When George Floyd, after he died, then everybody around the whole world realized, oh crap, cops are killing black people unfairly. Holy shit, let's stop the presses. And then everybody act like they were going to do something. And then all of these people put on Kunta Kinte cloths and kneeled at the Capitol building. And we still don't have, literally after all that, we can't even get an anti-lynching bill. And so if Black Lives Matter, well, why isn't there any legislation to even show it? Everybody knows what happened with slavery in this country. Everybody knows what happened with Jim Crow and busing and all of the different things which went on, Tuskegee, and you could just keep naming thing after thing after thing. The drugs into the communities, 3 strikes laws, some of the super predator. We could keep going on and on and on, all the stuff. And then you think about when it comes to reparations, the very people who built this nation, literally, physically built this nation, many had to go through the harshest conditions of any people around the world. And yet everybody else who's had some kind of gripe or complaint got reparations, but those said people. Explain to me how that makes sense, how Black Lives Matter with that state of affairs.
It don't play out that way. And that's how the system works, man. They'll give you the lip service. They'll play along. They'll entertain you. They'll put on the garb. They'll take a knee as if that is symbolic of something special, but it's only okay when they do it. So if Colin Kaepernick takes a knee, it's disrespectful. But if Joe Biden and the rest of Congress, Nancy Pelosi, if they take a knee, then it's respectful. So it's all, I'm white and I say so. Just the classic double standard of whiteness that has pervaded through society here in America and throughout the world. So it's just business as usual for white people in the system of white supremacy.
And what I tell a lot of people too is I tell people, try not to get offended, because you got to remember, so much of this society has been completely whitewashed and pushed from a white supremacist agenda. So there's a lot of things that you as a well-intentioned white person might not even realize that you are doing or saying that could be racist. Or just how many times where I've worked with well-intentioned white people where I know I'm 10 times more qualified than this person, but they are going to keep getting opportunities just because they're a white person. And it's nothing that they're doing, but it's the system that we're in that rewards one group of people and punishes another group of people.
Well, Marcus, can I say something, bro?
Yeah, sure.
Man, one thing that I try to share with everybody, and especially if there's white people in the midst, don't get offended and don't be sensitive about someone calling you racist. If you're white and you're raised in America, you are racist. It would be impossible for you not to be racist. People think racism is like some nasty, ugly, evil, some binary thing is good, bad, racist, not racist. No, you're racist. You've been baked in a society that is steeped in racism, in a country where they've been practicing racism before the country was even a country. Now, Marcus, if you baked an apple pie and then you dig in that pie and you take a piece of apple out of there, isn't that apple, even though it's an individual, it's one apple, I'm not the apple is out the pie, so that apple is not a part of the pie, but that apple is still going to taste like that goddamn pie. Excuse my language. Because it was baked in the pie. You're going to taste like the sauce that you was baked in. White people, you're dripping in white supremacist sauce. And you try to look at yourself as an individual, I'm different. It's okay that you're racist. It's a lifelong process of unbecoming, unlearning, and doing things that don't feed into the system. You can't get away from it. You didn't create it. It's not your problem that you created, but we all have to deal with it. So I want all the white folks to get over themselves. You're racist. It's okay. Just work on it. Period.
Well, since I saw a clip of your video on reparations. What are your thoughts on that for those in the audience?
Chris, let's hold on a second. Let's bring Emmanuel and the other Emmanuel real quick, and then I kind of want to cue up that clip on reparations, and then we can go into some of his thoughts on it.
Let's get into it.
Mm-hmm. So, Blue Maverick, sir, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any particular questions. Y'all pretty much covered the majority of it. The whole concept of Black Lives Matter changing from the Black Power fist to the handshake. I mean, you're just unsurprised at this point. You're unsurprised at the appropriation, the commoditization of it. So I don't really have anything to say in that regard. Now, if you're talking about the concept of reparations, I don't see that happening anytime in my lifetime. And Biden doing his little performative little dance that he got the press secretary to do. We looked into it, but we don't really consider it to be a really big issue. Remember that. So I'm just, it's crazy.
Man, if they don't talk to, they're not even willing to talk to Ice Cube. They damn sure not gonna give us reparations, man.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, Chris, do you have the clip?
Yeah. I got the clip ready. Let me just finish doing the share screen. But yeah, I got it ready.
Yeah, let's get this queued up.
The Ice Cube shit is funny.
People need to see this handiwork. You know what? I guess since I pulled the clip, I guess I'll set it up. Emmanuel is going into putting her into what I call a trick bag. And so she doesn't realize that the questioning is about to change up just a little bit. It's going to be the first time where she gets pushback. So watch this version of Jane Elliott, which most of you have probably never seen.
We ready?
We're ready.
All right.
What has been going on is not necessarily ignorance because nobody told me any better, because you just explained, and also I've seen in the exercise that you do, people just flat out deny their position, or that that someone else's discrimination is worse than theirs. But doesn't this all come down to survival? Doesn't this really come down to the fear of genetic annihilation? If I allow myself, if I allow everyone that is melanated an equal playing field, a level playing field, then I won't be able to compete with them. I won't be able to stay in control and stay in my privileged, nice position, because no group wants to give up their privilege. And so isn't this about, if I keep them here, then I can survive, because I know that my numbers are down all over the globe. I know that we're not procreating and reproducing. I know that the sperm count is low in males of European descent all over the globe, and it's been decreasing. Just like Brexit, I know if I continue to let immigrants come in, then melanated people are going to outnumber non-melanated people. They outproduce us. So isn't this more or less about genetic annihilation? Not just because I'm.
Wait. Do you even think that the average person walking down the street even knows genetic annihilation?
No, it's subconscious. It's subconscious.
Wait. We can talk about subconscious bias and conscious bias until hell freezes over. But that won't solve the problem. And we can use words of 4 and 5 and 6 syllables, and that solves the problem. You're going to have to talk in the language that the average human being in the United States understands. And here it is. You either change your behaviors today, or you're going to suffer greatly tomorrow. If you want your children to survive in the future, you got to change your ideas about miscegenation, because the hole in the ozone layer is getting larger and larger. And as the hole in the ozone layer gets larger and larger, more and more sunlight enters our environment, and more pale faces are going to suffer from melanoma, which is a skin cancer which can spread throughout your body, which happens because you don't have any protection from the dangerous rays of the sun. Now, you can tell that to people in 1 and 2 and 4 syllables, and they can understand that, and then they can say, oh my God, maybe I better be nicer to these people who are going to be running this show in the future. If people your age, who are pale faces, want to survive to be my age, they better change their behaviors now. Because by the time you're my age, you will be in a majority group instead of the minority color-wise in this country. That's a fact.
Oh my God. Oh my God, bro. Yo, she just told on herself, man. Is that why you said it was a trick bag? Tell me why, man. Tell me what you heard about it, and then I'll chime in, bro. Because every time I hear it, man, it blows my mind.
The reason why I called it a trick bag is because for those who have not seen it, first of all, I want to say, please go back after this and watch the full interview. That's what I want everyone out there to do. If you do me one favor, don't even worry about watching my commentary on it. Watch the full video. He's giving it to her pretty much like the standard interview which she's had most of the time. Kind of very, he's asking questions kind of complex, but he hasn't pushed back on her pretty much the whole entire interview until it starts getting towards the later middle part. Well, she's been kind of on her little spill and kind of comfortable. And it kind of reminds me of when I used to box. First couple of rounds, you're just feeling them out a little bit. And so if they lull into that and they get comfortable, they're not ready for when them hard shots start coming. And what happened is she got caught on the fly when the hard shots start coming. And she wasn't ready for it. And for the first time ever, I've seen her start flashing her true anger and her nasty nature that she has behind it. And then as he started hitting her up with other questions, which you guys will see in the other video, because we have another video too. But you'll see when you start to get people like that a little bit flustered, then you start to see more of their true colors, and they don't have time to come out with that already pre-thought out answer. And so the trick bag was that he let her feel comfortable the whole time. And then he flipped the script on her and hit her with a couple of hard ones. And she didn't know how to react.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's my style. I mean, I've done it the wrong way so many times because I've been podcasting for quite some time. I know how to do it the right way now. And, you know, as I was preparing for her, I studied her, you know, I studied the tape. So I literally watched like 15 to 20 interviews, and whether it's an interview or it was like a keynote speech, I knew what she was going to say. I mean, and it felt like football days. Like when you watch the tape, you know, people's tendencies. So like, I knew what she was going to say, and I have a good gauge of her personality. You know, she is, if Dame Dash was an old white woman, he would be Jane Elliott. Like, she has the temperament of Dame Dash. So that means that she's extremely blunt, direct to the point, and she really can't lie. She can tell stories. She can tell you like the prepackaged stuff that she already has packaged, but she can't lie. And so, like you said, bro, I made her comfortable. I asked her pretty, it was complex questions, but it was still like, I know what she's going to say. So I'm drawing it out or making her feel comfortable. And so at that point, I think that was like 38, maybe 40, 45 minutes into the conversation. And one thing that I know, and this is something that I rarely do, I would rarely even introduce that type of question to anybody, period. Right? Like, but I've done it a few times and then I stopped doing it. But I pulled it out for her because I was like, this is the time. She's ready and she's right on the cusp. And so I never talk about genetic, and I typically never talk about genetic annihilation. But one thing that I know as being a student under Neely Fuller Jr., read his book plenty of times, The United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, and also ISIS papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. But Francis Cress Welsing has that idea of genetic annihilation, right? And so when you introduce that idea, that concept is so real and it's so visceral that it's gonna cause a response. And I was just so glad I was able to get that honest response. And then when I talked about genetic annihilation, if you notice how she answered the question, she didn't refute and or deny what I said. She just reframed it and repackaged it. But she basically confirmed the genetic annihilation fears, the subconscious fears that white people have. And that's what drives them to act the way that they act and do the things that they do and create a society in the world that they've created, which is basically predicated on the subjugation, exploitation, and extermination. If you're not willing to be subjugated and exploited, the subjugation, exploitation, and extermination of non-white people all over the globe. And that fear is, I know that I'm a global minority. White people know they call us minorities, but they are minority. We're in a global society. They are maybe 10, 15%, if we're being generous, if we're including Jews and as whites. They're only 15% of the global population. They are a minority. So they know that if they're fair with everybody, if they let everybody love each other, if they just have a level playing field, then they will be annihilated. And what she was dog whistling to her people was saying, we're going to be a minority in the country pretty soon. Also, nature is against us. There's a hole in the ozone layer.
Hey, hold on one second. Hold that thought.
Go ahead.
Oh, Elle, don't go anywhere. I still do need you. We have a couple other topics that we're going to hit after this one. But yes, don't go anywhere. Elle, go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, and so she's talking about skin cancer and how there's the dangerous rays of the sun. And so she said you need to rethink how you think about miscegenation, which means interracial marriage, right? And so you're going to need, what she's saying is you're going to need melanin in your bloodline if you're going to last. Because if you don't have melanin in your bloodline, for one, you're not going to last. You're going to get killed by the sun. Two, this country is becoming more and more people of color. You're going to be outnumbered. You're going to be the minority. And if you're not nice to these melanated people, then they're going to treat you potentially how we've treated them. So you better start being nice. And so all she did was confirm, but it's a fear of genetic annihilation. You know what I mean? That white folks have, that's subconscious. And it blows my mind how she just repackaged it and basically agreed with me, but just try to water it down and dog whistle it to her people.
See, Elle, in a second, I guess, type a couple of questions in that you want to ask Emmanuel, and then I'll ask for you. But it's kind of something that I found interesting too. I don't believe it's every white person that has this thought pattern, but I believe at least the people in power, they do have this mindset. And so that's what really matters. As long as the people in power have that decision, or have that thought pattern, that's what really, truly matters. And
but the people getting mad and getting frustrated by what I have to say, they have it too. And that's why it affects them. If I said, man, you got the ugliest purple skin I ever seen, you're not going to react to that because you don't have purple skin. So that doesn't attach to you. But if I say you're white and you were baked in this system that's racist and you're probably racist, and that affects you, that means you have an attachment to what I just said because there's some truth in it. And so, yeah, bro, people in power, they are conscious of it, people that are not in power, it's subconscious to everybody else.
Yeah, see the comment?
Eugenics is what they believe. I mean, they believe in a lot of stuff, but
yeah, and that's what I mean. I'll leave that vague for now. But yes, in a nutshell, that has to do a lot with a lot of things which I believe that are going on.
Yeah.
And like I was telling some of my friends, I'm kind of shocked at how much people don't know, just in general, about a lot of things. So, I mean, I always have to keep that in mind. Like how she was saying. And then at the same time, you don't know what people know, and you don't know what people don't know. And so when she made that comment of, you can't go around using these 5 and 6 and 7 syllable words, I mean, you're just assuming that everybody on the street are just idiots and they're not going to know what you're talking about. And to me, that shows more of that arrogant, look down your nose. We're smarter than you up here. Of course, the people down there can't have a clue about these kind of topics. Of course, they're not smart enough, because if they were smarter, they wouldn't be where they are. You get what I'm saying with that mentality. And I've always felt like she's basically a hustler. And it's the first time I see anybody actually really call her out on her nonsense. Because I look at it like this. You trying to push this whole "we are the world" mentality. Even say, let's go to America before the colonizers came and the conquistadors. When it was just the natives, did they not attack and fight each other? Yes, they did. So that means that you still are going to have warring possible within your own tribe and within your own people, even when you're separated into your nations. So to try to put this whole, we're all brothers, so it doesn't really matter what happened to you and to, that's throwing out everybody's history, and it's throwing out what's happened throughout the course of what's brought everything to the point they are now. And it's disrespecting, in my opinion, millions of genocides which have happened to multiple people groups, to just do this. Oh, well, we are the world. Just forget about everything that happened, because now everything is fine in my life the way things are.
No, I mean, you're spot on, bro. And like what was exhibited in that interview, if folks are looking like real critically at it, is like her, and that's what I had already realized after studying the tape. So I knew what I was getting into, and I knew what would be exposed by my line of questioning. She was exposing white privilege at its highest level, right? Like, she is the anti-racist. She is, I mean, she's like the leader of this diversity stuff, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. She's been doing this since the 60s. So she's OG with it. However, she can still tap into her whiteness and chill and sit back in that, and have the audacity to go on Black people's platforms and tell everybody that we're all one race and we just have to move forward. We can't whatever happened in the past is the past. We can't fix the past. All we can do is affect the present so we have a better future. That sounds great. That sounds great. However, we know what reparations are. We know what reconciliation is about. And it's not about ignoring the past. But how dare you go on? How dare you go talk to T.I., talk to Red Table Talk, Jada and them, and then come talk to me and my guy William and tell us we're all one big happy family, and we just need to move forward because everybody needs it. That's easy for you to say. It's easy for you to say, white woman who has
something that stood out to me.
Go ahead.
I had to put that aside before I forget it. Something that stood out to me. She said, yeah, sitting there with Killer Mike and sitting there with T.I., it was like going through a class, like learning so much stuff. And I'm like, why are they even listening to me? And I'm thinking the same damn thing. Why is anybody listening to you about race issues? You, which I'm sorry to say it this way, but fall into probably the most protected class in the world, being the white woman.
I mean, she acknowledged that. Yeah, she acknowledged how privileged she was in her position as a white woman.
But that exposes more of the supremacy of the system in general. Because why aren't there people, more melanated people, being able to talk about these things? Because we live them. Instead, we have to have some random white woman who decides that she's going to get a conscience, and then she's going to speak for us. And then after she gets past the point of speaking on a good level for us, then starts telling us, no, this is how you all need to think about things. And I'm like, that little switch part is where I started to have my problems with her.
Yeah, man. It was just one of those things where I had to go there with her, because I don't put people on pedestals because like, oh, she's a celebrity, this, that, and the other. Like, I don't really care who you are. I put people's mind state and their logic on a pedestal and how they think. And I realized there was a big gap in between her reputation and her actual logic as it comes to racism. And this is my life. This is my passion. And I don't play around. And that's why I didn't hold back. I didn't pull any punches when I was talking to her because, she's walking around with this big bad reputation, and I get it. You know what I mean? And she's been marketed in a certain type of way. But I'm like, yo, your logic is highly unsound. Like, it is extremely problematic. And it was my pleasure to poke holes in it while having a somewhat, it was not somewhat, it was a very constructive conversation. So,
Emmanuel, you have to do stuff like that because white people will lean on their legacy. I mean, you have to take shots at the elite. You have to do it regularly. Like even with the concept of evictions, and that's a perfect example with the concept of evictions. And Cori Bush is sitting out on the steps and at the Capitol because at like noon, at like midnight, because it's midnight now, the eviction moratorium expired. But she wants to sit on the steps and say, I support you or whatever. And I'm just like, where were you like a month ago when this was happening? Because hundreds of thousands of people were affected by that. Where were you earlier when you were affected by that? So yes, you have to poke holes in them. So just from her body language alone, it just almost felt like you hit, almost felt like you hit her a little bit. And she just kind of like, you could see it in her body movement. So
nobody's ever talked to her like that. Everybody gives her the utmost respect. T.I., she just came off the T.I. interview like a week before she came to me, and he called her his hero and all that. You know what I mean? So it's, nobody really talks to her straight, direct like that.
I think I did a video on that one too. I got to go back and check. I think I did do a video talking about T.I. and all them. So, I feel the same way you are. I've been consistent on my approach. Now, granted, I tend to stick with how I feel, and sometimes it's not going to be to everybody's liking. So, I mean, I can't do much about that. Oh yeah, Emmanuel was bringing up about the whole Cori Bush thing and the eviction moratorium, and that's something that's going on now. Everybody, Biden had that "if you don't vote for me, you ain't black" thing, and I look at it like this: what legislative piece can he show me that he has done that has been specifically for the black community? And I say, anybody out there in the chat, ready, set, go. Because I think we'll all be waiting and growing very gray on this platform to figure out what the hell he has specifically done. Now, he could bring up, oh, well, I passed out checks for single mothers and this and that. That's for everybody who fits into whatever category. You haven't done anything which addresses any of the wage gap that's been going on in this country, the loss of wages that happened during the last recession, the home ownership, which is dropped through the floor. It's so many things that are just completely being ignored. And I'm sorry, this might piss some people off, but for 6 months, Asian vendors get attacked and beat up, and all of a sudden now there's millions of dollars which gets passed on like a 97-0, vote percentage in the Senate. And yet, right here in the very city I live in, you have Hispanic and Latino vendors who get attacked, robbed, murdered all the time, and nobody does anything for them. So I'm not trying to tell people that. I'm just going against all these other communities, which they get legislation for them. I'm bringing up the fact that somehow we always draw the short straw. And when it comes to handing out these different legislative gifts, for some reason, we always get left out. And that's what I brought up with one of my co-hosts, which he's a part of the LGBTQ community. And I said, my issue is every time that we start trying to push for something, Black Lives Matter, for instance, I'm not saying that you don't have issues in your community, but can we get my community some help first before we start trying to figure out every other community that we're going to help? Because what normally happens is when everybody else's concerns and grievances get brought to the table, the Black community's grievance always get pushed to the back of that group. And that's what I was trying to bring up. And that's what I try to bring up to people when a lot of these things get turned into Black and this, Black plus this. It needs to just deal with that specific issue, because it's hard enough to get, because they'll always find a reason, well, budgeting and we can't figure this out and this will cost too much. No, keep it on one specific thing and make them say yes or no. Every time you add all this shit, it gives them all these excuses, and it gives other people the ability to come in and hijack whatever movement that we are trying to accomplish.
And that's by design, though, bro. I mean, it's the fear, man. It's the fear of genetic annihilation. I'm telling y'all, if everybody that's listening, that's watching, even if you don't read the whole book, man, you need to get ISIS Papers by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. Read at least the first 2 chapters. I mean, it basically explains everything that you're talking about. Her theory of color confrontation is spot on. And you know, I don't want anybody to believe any theory wholeheartedly, just swallow it whole. But man, if you read the theory and you just look at history and look at modern day stuff and see how things are playing out, her theory is very spot on. And them not taking care of what they need to take care of as it pertains to us, and you know, the Stop Asian Hate bill and all that stuff, like they're not, it's by design. They're not going to make sure that Black people are on a level playing field. There's a fear. There's a real fear, like, because they know who created society, who created modern society. They know who the mothers and fathers of civilization are. They know who the gods of this earth are. They know who their parents are. and unfortunately, collectively, at least those at the top, they know what's up. And so they're not going to empower those who, if given a level playing field, could easily overpower them. And so therefore they're going to keep a brown man down sport. Like, they're going to continue to do that. And that's a part of the playbook. And they're not going to stray away from that, Democrat, Republican, or otherwise.
You see that?
Many people in Asia hate black people, by the way. Yes, it's all a part of the system. Yeah, it's all a part of the system, because they follow the colonizers, the oppressors. And also that Stop Asian Hate thing, once again, in my course, when I talk about establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement, the 4 stages of racism or white supremacy, like, we're in a refinement stage right now. But the expansion phase, part of that, the Stop Asian Hate, because we're going backwards. If you notice, we're going backwards in time, the way that they're doing the laws with the voting and all this stuff. And even with the, you know, we're going to get into COVID, but like with the vaccinated, unvaccinated, going back into segregation. So we're going back into that expansion phase, and them doing the Stop Asian Hate bill is an attempt to expand their territory and expand their allyship with Asians, because they know China is on the rise and China is on their heels. And so the Stop Asian Hate thing is, yo, let's expand the privileges of whiteness to this other group that is just as capable of world domination as us, and let's expand and help them out. All right, so let's throw them a bone, but like they're not going to expand and help out Black folks, because that's not a part of their plan. But Stop Asian Hate is a way to expand and grow more allies and try to have more influence in the country, because they know they're going to be outnumbered pretty soon.
Let's Chris, you got the other clip? Let's pull up that other clip real quick. I think that's the one that was the reparations.
It's funny that the funniest thing about this clip, and you know, there was a lot of folks that covered this, man. Like, and the video, my full episode itself only has 5,000 views, but you know what it did on Twitter and the number of people, and some somewhat high profile people like Tariq Nasheed covered it, Vicky Dillard, yourself, Dr. I forgot. It was, you know, I found at least like eight to 10 folks that have covered it, and they're like, yeah, man, when he asked her about reparations, man, it's crazy. Look what happened when he asked her about reparations. And the funny thing about this, and Marcus, you alluded to this, is like the way that I was forming the questions and the way that I was putting the onus on her. I never asked her about reparations. She brought it up. She brought it up. And that's the beauty about the way that everything played out. I never asked her. I just asked her about, what are you going to do? What do white people, how are y'all going to reconcile 500 years of subjugation, exploitation, and extermination of non-white people? What are you going to do? And she's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And then but go here. The clip is right there. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Chris, you're muted.
Thanks for reminding, man. I was sitting here just listening. I went and hit play. All right, here we go. Just let me know. Let me turn it up a little bit first. All right, here we go.
And first you have to pay off the Native Americans, whose land we took and whose homes we took and whose people we killed in the millions.
No, they got paid. They got paid. They have land.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
They have land. They have reservations, and they also have.
Oh, yeah. And would you like to talk to me about reservations and what a wonderful payment that is? All the black people in this country be willing to take a reservation.
That's what the Nation of Islam was asking for.
Well, is that a smart thing to do? I don't think it was.
It depends on who's driving that.
Wow.
No, I've been to reservations. In Montana.
Did you think it was a really comfortable place to be?
The way that they were living, no, I wouldn't live like that.
Oh, well,
but the whole it can't get any worse for black people. So a black person is not going to say, I don't want to have a chance to create my own civilization and my own society. Everybody wants that chance. I'm not going to judge, but I'm not going to project onto black people in America, well, this is what happened to the natives. You don't want that. And I'm damn sure not going to say, well, we need to pay the natives. Natives already got paid. They already made their deals. They already signed treaties. They've already done what they did. And if they squander their opportunity, that's on that group. Now it's time for this group to get its opportunity and to get its reparations. Sheesh.
You ever heard that phrase, hit dog hollers, or if you
Yep.
Yes, sir. Hit dog hollers, that's what that felt like.
Yeah, hit dog will holler
real big.
Yeah,
hit dog will holler. Yep, that's exactly what it felt.
Yeah, man, that was it was some fireworks right there, man. And it was basically at that point, and maybe 5 minutes after that, I was so checked out. Like, I was done. There was nothing else I needed to hear from her, you know. But it's funny that the way that played out, because I was at my pop's house the week before, and we were literally talking about Indian reservations and casinos, because they just built a casino maybe like 5 minutes from where my parents live. And he was telling me how it got financed, and it basically got financed like hundreds of billions of dollars. That was given. That was a loan that was brokered not through any bank, but from another tribe, like in New Jersey, that had just hundreds of billions of dollars to loan the other tribe out here in Washington, where my parents live, to build the new casino. And the casino is it's amazing, you know what I mean? But it's on a reservation, and they built it up. And so I was like, man, just imagine if black folks had first of all, had their own land to utilize, one, and for two, were able to like if we had our own casino, just like black owned, and like all of our people can go to a place and make money and set our own rules. Like they can sell duty free cigarettes and alcohol, and you know what I mean? Like they can do whatever they want on their land. And I'm just like, of course you don't want to be relegated to one spot, but man, wouldn't it would be so dope if we could have that opportunity, if we could have casinos too. Like we're owed a debt. I'm not saying like we deserve more than the native, because obviously this is their land to start with, but we deserve something. We don't deserve absolutely nothing. We don't deserve redlining and gentrification and Jim Crow and all. We don't deserve all that. Like there has to be some type of compensation. So we had that conversation, and then she brings it up, and I'm like, oh, I was ready for that because I had already been talking about it. So it was amazing, the audacity that she was saying that she doesn't think that reservations would be a good idea. And once again, it's like, who do you think you are? Just because you're a white woman and you're old.
That was my whole point with it. When she started going to, have you seen a reservation? Now, for one, she hasn't been to every reservation. And for those who don't know out there, I have a lot of Native American background. My mom is actually part of what is it? Chickasaw and I'm forgetting right now. But anyway, I have a rich history of that, and so I've done a lot of researching and studying, and so I know that some, like Emmanuel was saying, have worked out good deals. Some, on the other hand, have gotten screwed over, and some of the casinos that they own are literally through some kind of backhanded financing from somebody who's leveraged them in, some billionaire, and they're basically getting hardly anything out of the cut. But what he's saying is, we at least want the opportunity to at least be able to have the land and try to do something with it. I mean, we don't think it's going to be some kind of perfect situation where we're going to fare out necessarily better than the Native Americans did. But we at least want the opportunity. And to try to shut us down to even the possibility of having an opportunity, it's like, how dare you? You basically have taken this country and you're running with it. And so we should just be happy at the bottom. And I know some people can bring up certain black billionaires or whatever, but if you look at as a whole entire community, as a nation, where are we all as far as wages? Where are we as far as looking at employment? Where are we at home ownership? And you could just go down the list. All the things, we rank at the bottom. I mean, even if you go into, say, lawyers and doctors, still at the bottom of the pay chart. Why is that?
But it's not even the occupations, bro. It's look at the federal legislation that has stopped us and prevented us from achieving wealth that we could easily have had, over, 4 or 5 generations, that folks that are immigrants can come to this country. And if they pass as white, they can get all the privileges that other white people get. Now, when they move into white neighborhoods, they may be, ostracized for, oh yeah, that's the Polish family, or that's the Romanian family, whatever the case might be. But but regardless of that, they're not getting redlined. They're not getting, like, we can fight for this country, come home and not get a GI Bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we've been systematically discriminated on a level that other groups can't even compare. You know what I mean? So it's like, regardless of even what we're doing and what jobs we work, because to be honest, bro, white folks, their net worth is where it is because of what they've done generationally, not necessarily what they generate right now. Because a lot of people make a lot of money, but they spend a lot of money. But some are born with money, and that's something that we are not, because we couldn't own our homes, we couldn't vote, we couldn't control legislation. We were redlined. We were what's the eminent domain? They build a freeway, a highway through the neighborhood, all of that type of stuff, man. So it always goes back. Yes, it goes back to the U.S. government. They went back and forth on the treaties, but they've also perpetuated harm, specifically intentionally, on the black community, and that's why we don't have what we have. So
yeah, I also wanted to add in this stat here, because a lot of people don't know this. Native actually have higher rate of incarceration and drug addiction than any other minorities. And and I support reparations again and again. I'll say it. Y'all were slaves. And my thing is that's the reason why I'm always talking about Black and brown community, because when you look back through it, one common thread is went on. Now, am I going to say there were not natives who owned slaves? I'm not going to at all say that, because I can name at least 5 major tribes which did. But and that's why I say the history starts getting a little bit fuzzy in there. And then you also had native tribes which housed runaway slaves and protected them. So what I was saying is, when you look at these 3 groups and you look at any kind of stat statistically on economics, you will see Blacks, natives, and Latinos all right across the board, right at the bottom in the same spot. And for somebody to explain how a whole nations of people, how all of them, for some reason, are at the bottom, and you try to tell me that, because this is what you have to explain to me. Either these people have some kind of inherent dysfunction, or something is wrong with them, or they're inferior, or there was something that happened to put all of these people in the situation which they're in. And so I ask people, which one of the two are you trying to tell me? You're trying to tell me there's no systemic racism and slavery and stealing people's land and all of the trauma which went on, which not even factored in. I mean, many psychologists will show you stats that stuff which happened to people maybe 2 or 3 generations before, it goes down and passes through genetically. And so literally not that long ago, I literally have slave relatives not that far back ago. And so for people to act like, oh, well, that's something that was all the way back in the 1800s or 1600s or 1700s, for a lot of us, it's not that far away, when we have family members who know family members that were slaves.
I mean, for me personally, bro, I mean, it affects all Black folks in America. But like, my grandfather grew up in North Carolina. He was born in 1917. When he was 13 years old, so in 1930, he worked in the tobacco field with my great grandfather, who was a sharecropper. My grandfather was a sharecropper. That's my grandpa.
Yep,
so my great grandfather made 50 cents a day in 1930, in the 1930s. When my grandfather started plowing fields at the same rate as everybody else as grown men, my great grandfather had to go to the landowner and negotiate a raise. He was like, look, my son is doing the same amount of work as me and everybody else out here. So I believe that I should make $1 a day instead of 50 cents a day. And the landowner came back. He's like, you know what, son? I'll give you 75 cents a day. And my great grandfather was thrilled to make 75 cents a day in the 30s. And that was legal and that was normal in the South. And that's why Black folks fled the South, left everything that they knew, left the nice warm climate of the South to go north, to live in cold ass Chicago and Detroit and wherever else, New York, you know what I mean, to get a better life and make at least, $4 or $5 a day, because they was making 50 cents a day and they were getting lynched and they were getting hung, and they were getting burned alive and castrated and all that other stuff that was happening. So anybody that wants to have a conversation about what's happening right now and certain outcomes as far as Black, Latino, and Native Americans, especially Black, for them to not acknowledge systematic racism, they're just either extremely ignorant or they're just disingenuous. So that's just not even a conversation that I entertain, bro, because it's either or, and I don't have time with those people, because those people just don't want to know, what the real is. They just want to live in their fantasy world and live with the excuses that their grandparents and their parents have given them.
Yeah, that's why this year's kind of been a little crazy for me, especially with Juneteenth. Like, I celebrated Juneteenth for a long time, and now all of a sudden it's weird to me that it's now a federal holiday. And it's like, oh yeah, Juneteenth, like, it's no big deal. It's like, You guys are not even recognizing how long you've ignored it and wouldn't let people off of work who wanted to celebrate it and all kind of things like that. I mean, there's just so many things which have just kind of been a little bit jarring about the way this year's went with race relations, especially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's see. Speaking of race relations, this is another topic which I had in the headlines, which I guess we'll go into. The whole Ed Buck thing. A lot of people have been talking about that whole Ed Buck situation for years. And because he's been a Democratic, donor, it's been allowed for him to, do whatever he does with these black homosexual men. And then somehow they just have an overdose in his place and nothing happens. It's just fine for just black males to just overdose in this guy's apartment and there's no questions asked. Until recently, he's finally been brought in and went to jail. And so now everybody, like El said, before he went to jail, now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh yeah, of course the situation, we knew it and we were really investigating and we were being diligent about it. But how long did this go on with this whole Ed Buck situation? And it goes back to, I hate to say it, but some of that white privilege, allowing for him to be able to use his privilege and his money to be able to get out of that situation over and over and over. And I feel like the only reason why he probably got tripped up is because this latest victim survived. So they were able to tell a story on what was exactly going on, and they couldn't refute it this time. What's some of your thoughts, fellas?
Man, it's a nasty situation, bro. I mean, in more ways than one. But yeah, bro, white privilege, racism, white supremacy. I mean, all of that plays into. It's a part of the equation of why Ed Buck was able to get away with what he did. Influential, like you said, influential donor and all of that. That's why he was able to get away with what he did. And also his victims were non-white. And so they're eligible for mistreatment in this system. We are throwaway people to the white supremacists. And so if you kill a nigger in your living room, who cares? If you're rich enough to cover it up, nobody is going to care about it. And like you said, the only reason why somebody had to give it some attention is because somebody lived to tell about it, about their overdose. And also it's a different climate now. So you kind of got to be sensitive. But still, though, like if it's not for black folks and independent black media, making this story go viral, we really wouldn't know about this. This would have been swept under the rug like plenty of other stories of white men or just influential white people abusing, murdering on the low, just black people. So yeah, man, it's a nasty situation.
Think about this. Even with the Jeffrey Dahmer thing, majority of his victims were minorities.
Yeah.
And think about even the one of the victims got out and was running, had like a belt around his neck, was all beat up and bloody and stuff. And the police literally gave the victim back to, this creepy looking white man.
Mm-hmm.
And because to them, he wasn't creepy looking. I guess he just looked like, oh, well, this is just normal. They were just having a rough gay spat or something. So let's just not worry about it. Let's just listen to exactly what this white man is saying. And let's ignore this man who looks like he's traumatized with a belt around his neck.
That's naked.
That's naked, yes. I mean, it's the same kind of situation. And that's what you're starting to see a lot more, I feel like, with this Kevin Spacey, and all of these things are starting to come out with all these people all of a sudden.
Real quick, that was the point I wanted to make. Like, it's messed up what Ed Buck was doing, but pretty much they'll do that to anybody. I mean, let's look at the Catholic Church, right? Most of their victims weren't black, right? You know what I'm saying? They just abuse people. In those positions of power, Ed Buck just happened to choose black people. And, make no mistake, we do have targets on us. and we do have targets on our backs, right? But at the same time, if you're poor, they don't give two fucks about you. You know what I'm saying? The Catholic Church preyed on them people. What's the dude from Penn State? I forget his name right now. Sandusky. Sandusky was preying on all them little white kids in that community. They're just the same. So it's just a problem with what. It's just the protocol that those people have. Buck just messed up by messing with the gay black men. You know what I'm saying? And now obviously we're in this climate, as you said, where we are more aware of the LGBTQ community and things like that. So to see them get abused, obviously in today's world, that's going to be broadcasted even more. But Ed Buck just represents a long line of friggin' rich, wealthy pedophiles. Let's look at Epstein. Same shit. He abused a bunch of them little white girls out here. He wasn't targeting them. It's just something. These people just have what they have. They just like to abuse people, and on some level, color don't even matter. It's who's in their vicinity. Ed Buck just has a preference for the gay black men because obviously they're the lowest ones on the rung, right? So you could, like you said, you could get away with doing stuff to them that you can't get away with doing to other people, especially in his position.
Oh yeah, I forgot something that I wanted to mention right now, which I completely forgot about. I need to bring up. Elle notified me right before the show, and after the show, everybody please make sure to take a screenshot of whatever the view count is. It's come to our attention that our last video, for some reason, they've literally just cut the view count in half. Now, I'm pretty certain that that last video was somewhere around like 127 views, which that's not super high. I don't know why that needs to be altered or modified. I mean, there's plenty of people who get more views than that in their live stream, going 15, 20 minutes. I don't know why that's a big deal. Well, for some reason, they cut it from 127 views last I saw to about 65 views. And I wouldn't doubt that they're doing this with other people's channels also. This is the first time that I saw that they've ever actually cut my views down. I've noticed that my views have been limited. And what I mean by that is I've literally watched video after video after video get down to a certain number and stay right in this certain range. And what's been interesting about it is I've noticed it on Emmanuel's channel. I've noticed it on a couple other people's channels also, as I've been doing a little research on it. But I've seen this at least probably 15 to 20 times now, where for some reason, all of these people were getting a certain amount of views. They might have one video that's a couple thousand, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. And then all of a sudden, their view count, you see it start creeping down, 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 down. And then it hits a certain number, 40 views, 30 views, 20 views, whatever it might be. A couple of them will drop down to single digits. A couple might drop up to 50, 60. And then they'll have that one video that'll hit 100. And that's like the breakout video of all the videos which have of this time where they've started kind of throttling back the content. We literally have people who watch this channel on a regular who say, I can't find your show. They unsubscribed me. And what I tell you, this is the only thing I'll say is, for one, that tells you need to make sure to start getting in here and catching our live streams. That's the first thing. For two, if you're getting in here, catching a live stream, you're sharing it, you can help push back some of these little bullshit things which they try to do to fuck with the channel. Another thing, please start putting likes. If you don't like it, put a dislike. Just put something down there in the comment section. Even if you just put hi, put something in the comment section. All those things help the algorithm. If you're just going to watch the video for a little bit and you just wanted to check on to show some love, and it's after we've already streamed, click on the video, skip forward like 10 minutes, and then you can hop off and do whatever you need to do. That helps count towards the views. So there's all kind of little things which they do to try to discount your views and things like that. I'm just saying, keep an eye out that not only myself, but more than likely, at least one or two of your favorite content creators out there, they are actively doing manipulative and secretive things to try to discredit, chop down the views, or suppress the content of these creators. So keep that in mind and try to push forward. Also, another thing, when you search for stuff, do not just pick the first couple of options that come up. Have a little patience, scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, because sometimes that's where you find some of your biggest gems of content, because that's where they bury them. A lot of my views, if you look up this channel in particular, the Political Matrix, my top views for the most part will be like 10 views from last year. If you scroll down, and I want to say that I scrolled for probably about 10 minutes straight before I found a recent video. You know, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until I got to any video that was newer than 6 months. It's the reason why they do these things, so just keep that in mind. What was it? L, while I still have you here, L, can we talk about BlackRock a little bit? Can we talk about BlackRock a little bit? Because BlackRock ties into all this stuff too, because a lot of their motives, a lot of people don't understand it because they just look at what the business is doing. You got to understand that when they're sitting in these boardrooms and when they're sitting there smoking their cigars out on their balcony, penthouse loft, staring over the city, they are sitting up here planning and trying to figure out what they're like. You know those games like Forge of Empire and all that shit like that. That's what they're literally doing. They're literally planning how they want to run everything. L says it right here. BlackRock owns almost everything. I want to say Berkshire Hathaway and another group. Those three groups in particular own, I want to say something like 87% of all the wealth in the world, and the rest is split amongst the rest of us. And so a lot of the things which BlackRock has done involves gentrification, involves some of this redlining. Thank you, Variant. Vanguard. Vanguard is the other company. If you look through damn near every major corporation, you will see these names reoccurring in almost everything. And so when you start to see gentrification, and it's not only happening in Houston or Portland or San Diego or New York, and you're seeing it in all these different places, there's a reason why. These things are connected. These movements are, it's not something that's disjointed. This great reset and all of this stuff is all involved in it. There's a reason why most of us don't watch that much mainstream cable news, because it's only owned by a handful of people. So that means only a handful of people are giving us even what they consider the news that's important for us to view. And then on top of that, we have to hear their point of view and whichever experts they decide to bring in. So that's what we're listening to, a handful of people's point of view on what's going on in the world. And we're shaping our point of view off of the playing field which they have given us. It's the same thing which we had in the election. They gave us the options which they were willing to accept, which is shit for us or shit for us. And half of the people got up in arms because they thought this one piece of shit was worse than that piece of shit, when really they're both the same pieces of shit. And so everybody rushed to the polls, and so they're still doing the same thing. They're still dividing everybody up. Now the election's over and they can't make any more money off of Trump and the media. They're trying to look for somebody else, Marjorie Greene Taylor, whatever. And then they're also going into this vaccinated versus unvaccinated, keeping that same dichotomy that they had with the whole Trump versus Biden people. And so, I mean, it's a continuation of the same stuff, but there's a reason why they're focusing on certain things. And we always got to keep in mind, what the hell are these assholes really, what do they really have going on? Because if they're putting this stuff out in front of us, there has to be something more nefarious that they're not truly talking about. What do you got there, Chris?
But that is the board of governance for BlackRock, right? There's some names you may mention. There's some names you may recognize. There's some names you may not. But I saw my girl here, Cheryl D. Mills. If anybody knows about Cheryl Mills, you'll know that that was chief of staff to Miss Clinton. Oh, that right there already tells you. That already tells you right there how dirty this company is. But yeah, if you just look it up on one of the websites, just start looking up these names, who they're related to, who they're associated with, and it paints a very clear picture. Like, these people were picked to be on the board for obvious reasons, who they're connected to. Everybody on that list is connected to somebody in some kind of government. So you really got to like basically right here it's showing you that okay, L, I got it. I'm gonna check it. So basically just show you, just follow the rabbit hole with these couple names, right? I'll put the link in the chat. But yeah, just follow these names and just start going down the rabbit hole. You'll see real quick how nasty it really is and how interconnected a lot of this shit is. Yeah, Marcus.
What I was saying also with that internet. Oh, mute real quick, Chris. Yeah, the echo. Okay. What I was and what I talked about in some of the earlier episodes, and some of you have to go back and do a little digging and some research. At least you don't have to go scrambling through a whole bunch of different sources like I had to do to put together some of this information for you. But go back to some of these old videos in there. Don't only just worry about the live streams. Go back to some of these old little short videos. They might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Go back to some of them, because in some of those titles, like They Rule the World, start following some of these trails. The thing which I tell people, if you really want to know what's going on, you need to have an understanding of what went on before. And if you start digging back in ancient history, you'll start understanding why a lot of things are done the way they're done, just in general. And so when you start understanding some of these things and you start seeing these ties and these connections, you're able to start understanding some of these movements, because as it got to a certain time period, they start realizing, we got to cover these tracks up a little bit better than we had. And so they start covering their tracks at a certain point. But if you go back further enough, and I mean, not even really that far, early 1900s or late 1800s, you could see a lot of how these movements were, a lot of this stuff that was going on. And the same kind of former royal families, which developed into a lot of the power players within politics, within religion. I'm talking about all the way to the top levels of the Vatican, the Jesuit order, things like that. All of these different Freemasonic organizations. You start getting into what is it? I won't go into all the different acronyms right now, but all the top people that we're talking about who get involved. Thank you, El. The Googles, the Disney, Washington Post, Lyft, Uber, Twitter, the people who sit at the tops of these organizations are basically the foot soldiers of these people at the top. They're the face that we get to see. But this stuff is not hard to track, and this money all ties back to handfuls of people, almost majority of the time. Chris, you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, if you go through this list, thanks, L. L sent us this list. It's by holdingchannel.com. It just shows you who owns what. Now, if you look at the list, I don't know how good you guys could see it. I was trying to blow it up without, messing it up too bad. Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, Alphabet, Johnson Johnson, JP Morgan, Berkshire, United Health Group, Visa, MasterCard, Home Depot, Intel, Alibaba, Adobe, Cisco, Comcast, Exxon, Netflix, AT&T, Pfizer, just Salesforce. Go down the list. BlackRock is probably the biggest shareholder. They own the most amount of stocks. You know what I'm saying? For any individual owner in those companies, right? So maybe they own 20%. maybe they own 29% of this company, 30% of this company, 40% here and there. So their influence is just out of control, very much out of control. But most people don't even know that. Listen to some 86. Oh yeah. Most people don't even know this and able to put things together. We'll look at the CEO of a company and think like, oh, okay, that's the be all end all. But most of the time, that's not the case. Again, some of these CEOs are like just middle management in the grand scheme of things. That's something that we got to pay attention to also, because sometimes we just see people, we call names, and we're like, yeah, them. Like how we do in politics, right? How we say, oh, Biden did this or Trump did that, and we already know those guys don't really have much power. You know what I'm saying? They're just figureheads.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, Blue Maverick, you got any questions, sir? I mean, or any comments or anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Ella about the information, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know all that about BlackRock. I didn't know BlackRock was such a I know BlackRock was such a young company. What was it, 1980s, 1990, something like that, and they have managed to amass a sizable amount of control in such a short amount of time. So honestly want to appreciate that, because I heard of them, but I didn't really know. No, there's a difference between knowing and not. Right, 1988. Thank you, El. I knew, but I didn't know. No, so that's really all I had to say about that.
How does this like, what mind state does this put y'all in investment wise? If you guys invest, like, how does this influence the type of companies that you look to invest in?
It does, man, and it's like you want to put a few dollars in your pocket, right? You can't. Obviously, we need money to get by, right? So it's difficult at times, because it's like you're like, damn, look at this stock, it's going up. I got a few dollars, and it's like, okay, AMC was low. I want to jump in, but you know that you're participating in the bullshit because you're giving money to AMC. I mean, yeah, you're buying AMC stock, but you're also giving money to the people who are just as easy to turn around and throw you in jail, who fund private prisons, who pay people on ALEC to write stand your ground laws. So it's like, it's messed up. Sometimes you just want to kind of put your hand in the cookie jar, take a little bit and get out. But like for me, it does, like, I do think about it. It's not lost on me that I'm like, damn, I got a few dollars in here and, you know, they're actively working against me. What about you, Emmanuel?
Yeah, man, that's a great point, man. I'm thinking about my portfolio right now, and it's like I got a good amount, not a good amount, but I got some of those companies. So I have Tesla, Alibaba, and then some of those I don't. I got like Zillow and like a few others. But no, I mean, it's like, I mean, they have like a lot of the top 30. You know, they got the FANG stocks: Facebook, Apple, Alphabet, Netflix, all of that. So it's they have like a lot of the standard companies, Disney and whatnot. But it is interesting to see. I'm gonna continue to go to their website and see like when they're purchasing and when they're selling, to kind of notice the movement on those stocks based upon the moves that BlackRock makes. So that's really intriguing stuff.
Well, what I was gonna say is, if I did a lot of investment, which I don't do a lot of, but I kind of just have my retirement thing, you know, through work and everything. But what I would say is, if you being a person of faith also, this advice would probably be more received by a person like you than maybe some other people in the audience. So for those who listen to this, kind of just take what you would like to take from it. If you know who the elites are and you really pay attention to their movements and the things that motivate them overall. As you look around and you see movements, and if you're familiar with prophecy, you start noticing and looking for different signs. And so ways they can make money and capitalize off of those different prophecies, which are said to come, can give you a jump on seeing some of the things. For instance, I'll just throw one random out there to kind of throw people off. You can't give all the information out, but a certain region in the world, it spoke about it being barren. And what I see in this area is they are drying out a certain area to dredge it out for something. Now, if you might not know exactly what it is, but if you know about prophecies in certain areas and how that can affect that region, you might be able to kind of gain some of these things that they might start investing in. And then if you start noticing some of these larger players, how they deal with certain things, and just kind of watch them, kind of put a baseline on them. If they jump on things right away on everything, then jump on it with them. But if you see that they like to hold back, and then always after 3 months, then make their move, that's the best way. I say, whatever you do, though, watch out to whatever the elites are doing at the top, because that's going to give you your best indication. Because especially if you look in Congress, you had a lot of them who were buying stocks in all the telecommunication software. For instance, StreamYard, what's the other ones? I can't think of them right now. Zoom, GoToMeeting, all those different telecommunication companies. All the Congress people were investing in all of those things. They also were investing heavily in not Windex, but what is it? Any antibacterials, Clorox, Clorox wipes, all of those different things like that. Computers, laptops. They started investing in all of those things right around the same time before all of this lockdown stuff started happening. So they knew they were going to put out legislation for the lockdowns. And so they knew what people were going to need to do during the lockdown. So therefore, they invested the stock in it, just like with them investing stocks more into Amazon Prime, because they knew people were going to have to ship more stuff. They were put money into Dell because they knew people would be buying new computers, probably because more businesses would be running from home or outside or off-site. So since they were able to game some of these things because they knew what they were going to do, that's what I would say. Just watch what these sneaky assholes are doing, and you can kind of get a good way to invest.
Marcus, do you see investing as like a way of feeding the beast and supporting the system?
Well, I look at it like this, and I'll tell people my honest to God opinion. I believe that I and my people are in a form of captivity, and so everything it says, we would have to go to our oppressors in want of everything, in want of clothing, shelter, food, everything. So if I want to go get if we want to get education, got to go to my oppressor for the education. Even if it's information to find out what they're doing against us, and I got to dig and research that way. If I want to get clothes, I got to get it from my oppressor. I mean, most of my people, they don't own any textile mills. So even if they have a black-owned business, they still have to get them fabrics from somewhere else. When you start thinking of, okay, I want to have a restaurant. None of our people own the farms, which most of this beef and chickens and all this stuff is coming from. So we're not profiting there. Even if you die, you still got to go to the courthouse from our oppressors and get that same information. You got to get a license from the same oppressors. So in this system, you got to get everything through the oppressor. So, I mean, all you can do is try to manage carefully in it and not deal in things where it's a clear cut that they're using that in a way to harm our community directly. So, like, for instance, if you're investing in telecommunications, that's not anything that's necessarily harmful to any of our people. But if you start investing in private prisons, now we got an issue.
Yeah.
So I figured that's the best way to bust it. Yeah.
Sure.
And there's other topics which you can go into, like if somebody wants to invest and support companies like Monsanto, which poison many, many, many areas. I mean, especially a lot of my people in Puerto Rico. Some of the cancer rates, which they've done, just destroying people there. And they don't want to pay out settlements and all that stuff. And not only there, through various parts throughout the U.S., then we can get into people who want to invest in oil stocks and things like that. With the fracking, you got, a lot of people's water literally catching on fire in Texas, like you had in Flint, Michigan. The same thing which you have in places like Denmark, South Carolina. I mean, for me, a lot of this stuff, it all still ties into a mentality from people at the top who decided we are not going to fix anything that we've done wrong to these people. We just want everybody to forget. That's the reason why I feel like so many people don't want to talk about critical race theory. They want to just ignore it. And what they say is, oh, well, that's attacking white people. No, all it's words. It's the history. It's what happened. If just hearing the history of what your people did is injustice to you, well, what is it to us who had to experience it, who still live with a lot of the consequences and repercussions of it still till this day? I mean, my grandparents were literally children who their parents went through Greenville, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, literally, they grew up in the aftermath of Black Wall Street. And so the stories which they had, they were prospering, doing well, not hurting anybody, but because of jealousy and hatred, they had to have everything destroyed. Now, did any of those people even receive anything? Joe Biden, we're talking to one of them, and they brought up reparations, and he completely just sidestepped that, ignored it. Now, you have somebody who's literally a survivor from a place that was basically genocided. The first place in America that was, with planes, firebombed. They were throwing Molotov cocktails of nitroglycerin. It wasn't alcohol. It was nitroglycerin. That's what they were throwing. I mean, there's so much that went on, and it kept going on. I mean, my mom, the high school which she graduated from, her first year there, first thing she heard from her math teachers is, none of you niggers are going to pass my class. That's how it started out. And people act like when I heard those people on the January 6th Capitol things, well, that's the first time in my life I've ever been called a nigger. And I'm like, where did you grow up? Because where I grew up, that's not uncommon. I mean, everybody I know has been called it multiple times. Mm-hmm. And so for you, wherever you grew up, I mean, wow, I'm impressed that you've never experienced that before. But I've had basketball games when I was a teenager, and I hear the parents literally chatting, you better not let those niggers beat you. Throwing rocks at our bus. Kids, adults throwing rocks at our bus. I mean, I can go on and on with stories. And the sad thing about it is, this is not some kind of unique thing that has just happened to me, or this just happened to Chris or the Emmanuels. This is something that I would say easily 70-80% of Black males have experienced in this country. So think that's millions all have the same experience. So when Emmanuel especially go into about white people and racism and racists, you got to remember, you might say, well, I'm not racist, or I don't hang with any people who are racist, and you got to remember, for most Black people, though, because of just the numbers in this country, we're talking about 44 million versus about 170 million white people in this country. Think about how many more racists that we run into than you run into people which you feel like are not racist. And so because that number is so much higher, and because so many have power, and because then you're going to have that other third of group who, well, it's not my problem, not much I can do about it, are going to ignore it. And then you have the other ones that's like, oh, fucking well, it's not bothering me. So that's the problem which we run into in this white supremacist system. Either some people feel like they can't do anything about it, The other people feel like, oh, well, screw them. It's not my problem. And then you have the people that, I mean, and think about it. You break that number. Let's say a third of white people are racist, which I assume it's higher. A third. That would be 77 million, racist white people. And that's not even factoring in racist Asian people we might have to deal with, or racist from other groups also. So in this country, yes, we feel very attacked and targeted, definitely. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, Emmanuel, would you like to add anything?
Man, you
which one are you talking about? Me?
Oh. Go ahead, Mav. You've been quiet, man. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say about the stock market thing. I was actually one of the people who read the Wall Street Journal and looked at the little signs and stuff like that and invested that way. I try to watch events like Marcus here now and see what's going on and who's buying from who and who's merging with who and stuff like that. I'm trying to do a little bit of crypto, see how that goes, but I'm not putting my life savings into it, so we'll see. That's it. That's all I want to say.
No doubt, man. I got a little bit of crypto myself, man. I'm like cautiously invested in crypto, man. But it's just like, I really don't understand. I'm not gonna lie. It's really, if it was the stock market,
I get you.
I wouldn't invest in it. But it's like, oh, crypto is the thing. I was like, all right, let me put a couple $100 on, just let it sit and see what happens. But I have no idea what's going on with crypto. I don't know if I made a good investment or not. I'm just like throwing it to the wind. So.
It's wild to me. I was going to say, it's wild to me, right? Because you can see all these coins, on the internet. People talk about it on social media sites. You go to regular websites, etc. And then Elon Musk says, like, water's wet and fire's hot, and then all of a sudden the price go up. So it's wild. Like, it just seems as if the crypto thing was allowed to thrive in this instance because that is exactly where the world governments want to take financing. Because we know that the United States the Treasury Department is working on their own form of digital currency. The banks are working on that. Microsoft has a patent on a piece of technology that is able to store your vaccination records, your immunization records, and it allows you to process payments through some kind of digital currency. And it's going to work in conjunction with your body, by the way. But I don't want to go too deep for people on that one. But yeah, that crypto shit.
Well, Chris, I heard about the Amazon thing, so I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Amazon thing. You just wipe your hand in front of the thing, and your transaction's finished. So whenever we said last year, like, yo, they're going to put a chip in your ass, maybe not with this first round of vaccines, but whatever's coming after this, you're definitely getting that shit put inside of you. But, we was called crazy, but the technology is there, and they're slow walking people to it.
Mm-hmm. You see what Elle says there? It says, I'm ready to circle back to the vaccine passport situation, which, yes, which the last topic here, we have pandemic updates. So with all the stuff that's been going on with the Delta virus, we have vaccine passports being talked about. Yeah. And there were a lot of protests throughout France, UK, Italy, Israel, etc. That is true. I tweeted out a story about France, I believe, earlier. But yes, all of those places have that going on. We also have to talk about, where it looks like this is going. It looks like we are possibly heading towards some kind of mandatory situation. Chris, do you have that clip which, was it Don Lemon? The one with Don Lemon and Chris Cuomo? You know which one I'm talking about? Yeah, can you bring that one up?
No shirt, no suit, no service. vaccination speech. Yeah.
I want to bring that one up just in case the people in the audience have not seen it. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I just thought about it. That's MSNBC. I do not want to give YouTube another reason to mess with me. Oh, I guess L caught my tweet earlier. I called him Don Lemonhead.
But, you know, Emmanuel, I don't know if you saw that video. Not you, Maverick, but Emmanuel, E-Dub. Did you see that video?
Yeah. I seen it, bro.
It says, and they say it with such authority, right? There's like, do not question what I'm telling you. No shirt, no shoes, no socks, no vax. You dead. Like they speak with such authority, and it's like the sad part is like maybe the four of us and those of us who are in the chat can like see that and just kind of laugh like, yeah, all right, fuck out of here, right? But there's so many other people who are sitting on their couch like, you know what? It's a great idea. And that it goes beyond race, age, everything, because I've heard some in my own family say that crazy as shit. Auntie, sorry, I got to put you on blast too. My father and mom, they don't pay no attention to this shit, right? But my aunt says, oh, you can't let my father in the house because they keep the windows open. And I'm like, oh, so the corona gonna fly through the window. So the corona went up to the 6th floor, infected my parents, and then, you know, now I'm just like, so many people are so lost behind this. And like I said, Auntie, I still love you, but you know we got them jokes. But you know, it's so sad that so many people sit down in front of that damn television and they believe over half of what they hear. It's very mad. It's maddening at times. But I see Elle wants to go into the passports. So let me ask the rest of you guys, what do you think about the passports? Do you think they are good? Do you think they're necessary? And do you think they're coming?
Well, I guess I'll go first. I definitely think they're coming. And what they're doing is they're kind of trying it out in all of these other countries first to see how much resistance they're going to have, because a lot of these other nations, they're known to kind of push back a little bit. So their mindset is, oh, well, if they see protests in France, you know, they had the whole yellow vest movement not that long ago. So they're not going to be that worried about it because, they always have stuff over in France, or they always have protests in the UK. And so I figured they're going to kind of go under that guise and try to downplay a lot of these protests as, oh, well, this is, you know, just a small group of people, you know, ignore it. Don't worry about it. That way it starts getting pushed here. Because now that I think about it, the video which got yanked down the other day from my other channel was a video covering, what is the name of their shitty little show? Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty. Breaking Points. Yes. Because more than likely it probably is their show or their guest. What was his name? Some kind of reporter from the Atlantic. More than likely it was one of them who probably had it taken down. I didn't show the video. I played audio, and they tried to say that I went against some kind of code of agreement, medical information, which anytime where I went into an opinion, I made sure to declare it was my opinion. I was not giving medical advice. I do not give medical advice, except for take vitamins. So if you guys want to come after me for telling people to take vitamins and get some exercise and some sun and eat healthy, then I mean, what kind of censorship racket are you running here where you can't even say those simple basic things? Oh yeah, and take some vitamin C. But they yanked down that video, and the reason why I believe is because I started going in on, and don't worry, I'm gonna try to. I'm pretty sure I still have it, so I'm gonna probably try to put it up on Odyssey or something like that. So don't worry, YouTube, I'm still gonna get the video out. Fuck you very much. But anyway, in the video, I started going into them trying to force it, and this reporter start going into, or journalists from the Atlantic, which ironically, Crystal and Sagar admitted that they basically got a lot of their fame by Trump coverage. And since Trump has been in office, the Atlantic has been bombing. And so this reporter, he literally starts out the whole, and please look up that breaking points with a reporter from the Atlantic. It's something Thompson or Derek Thomas or Derek Thompson. Derek Thompson, that was his name. But please go and look at that. That's the one which I went into. And he starts going into, well, in my circles, it's kind of becoming a thing where everybody's gonna vaccinations need to become mandatory, and we need to put pressure on the FDA to make it mandatory and start forcing people. And so I'm like, so are you going to make a separate system where there's grocery stores for people who do not want to take this vaccination? Or are you just saying you're literally gonna shut people out of work, employment, food, everything, and just leave them to starve? Or what, are you going to all give us BB guns and tell us to go fucking hunting or fishing? What is the solution? I mean, I would like to know. And because I feel like I criticized that video, that portion in particular, I believe that's why they yanked it down. That's just my opinion. So on all that stuff I've been talking about, what do you guys think? I babble on a lot.
So basically, as far as the viability of the vaccine passports, or just how soon it's going to happen, well, I think it's just a matter of time. So whether it's with this generation, I mean, it's going to be hard with this generation, but you know, by 2030, 2035, it'll be like, you know, everybody has it. It'll be just status quo. But it's going to be interesting. I believe that they will continue to try to force it. I don't know how far they're going to go, but simply because the technology is there and it's available in America, then I believe they'll push it pretty heavy. But, you know, I'm not for it. You know, like, I don't care if somebody get vaccinated or they don't get vaccinated, but like the fact that they're trying to force it, it's working. And one of the reasons why is because of media. So right now I'm staying with my folks. My house is under renovation, and so I'll be back in a couple of weeks. But so, you know, my folks in their 60s, late 60s. And I've never watched so much news except for now, that like when I get up in the morning, come downstairs, they watching the news every day. And every day is talking about, you know what, right? And then I seen that Don Lemon and that Chris Cuomo stuff. I seen that live, but they watch CNN every night. And I'm like, and I didn't because I don't watch that stuff. I don't pay attention because I already know it's WWE. I know it's fake. I know it's all staged. But watching it, it's like, yo, they really call this news. And my parents is looking at it and they're trying to have like an intelligent conversation about what they're talking about. And I'm like, yo, this is not news. This is pure propaganda. But because, unfortunately, baby boomers and just other folks that are not thinking critically, they haven't been equipped to think critically. They're just equipped to accept what, you know, the power structure gives them, and these so-called authority figures give them, because they trust them. Because like, why would they lie to us? And so many people have that naivete about them that a lot of folks are going to want it. You guys seen Utopia. You seen what happened. They started creating slogans for their own self. Like, y'all know how this works. And unfortunately, our society is predictable. And the powers that be know how to, you know, put people in place and put little things out there in the media to just have this massive brainwashing and have people thinking that they're thinking for themselves, but those ideas have been planted into their brain. And now they're just carrying out the wishes of the puppeteers, you know what I mean? Or puppet master. So it's nasty, bro. It's a weird time to live in, but I think that they're going to push it through, and they're doing it in government. They're doing it in the NFL, and they always start with like professional sports, and it kind of just trickles down. So it'll be interesting to see.
Oh, Chris, go ahead.
Oh yeah, L. Just now, I was reading your DM. No worries, I'll put that up. I think I have that link. But no, I couldn't agree with Emmanuel more. I think I've said it before. I have this older woman that I look out for local here. All last year, she was super afraid. Why? Every single time I went into this woman's house, what is on in the background? CNN. So even if she's not sitting down on her couch looking directly at the TV, when she's in the kitchen, she can hear it. When she's in the bathroom, she can hear it. It's like filling the room up with smoke. You're going to get high after some time. You're going to catch that contact. So when you listen to it, even at work, it's like people are saying things. We got these protocols, we got these rules, and you're listening to it. And because obviously, like, I know what I know, right? And it's like the only thing they're doing is verbatim repeating what they've heard on CNN, NPR, MSNBC, sometimes Fox. But really, all it is them just regurgitating talking points from people that they just they shouldn't be listening to nor trusting, because look, that same group of people on the television told you that Saddam Hussein has something to do with the towers coming down in New York and the attacks with the plane in the Pentagon. They told you that shit too. They told us a whole bunch of shit. They told us they was waging a war on drugs. Only thing they did was lock people up. You know what I'm saying? So it's ridiculous.
They told us that it was safe to take our mask off now that people have gotten vaccinated. And now they're saying, hey, you need to put your mask on. Come on, guys, common sense. And it's like, what? You literally just said with authority, with so much confidence, that it was safe because people got their shot. And now they're saying it's not safe. So it's like, man, but folks continue to trust these authority figures and just go by what they say. And it's just.
Well, just like I would like to play the clip, but I don't want them, to come after me. Even though I would literally just be playing a clip of this man saying whatever he's saying, they'll probably say, oh, well, the channel, hits you for copyright or something. So I'll just say, look up the video where Fauci, it's just a clip of Fauci talking over this whole, thing. And he's been literally on one point, then another point. And I just simply asked the question, which part of the advice should I listen to? Because if somebody is literally on both sides of every single issue, then how am I supposed to have confidence in this authority in which direction to go? Mask, no mask. Mask, to mask. Mask outside, no mask outside. Mask only on kids? No mask on kids, mask on old people. I mean, this is getting confusing to me at some point. What you got there, Chris?
Oh, L is giving us some I'm gonna blow it up too, Emmanuel. L is giving us some daily deaths, daily numbers in different countries for Corona. And, again, you can look at it and see there's not very many people dying. And the only thing they're doing is giving us numbers of people who test positive. That's all it is. And again, when you take like what you're seeing with the NFL, what they did with the NBA and stuff like that, you're only going to have a small amount of people testing a whole bunch of times. And that's going to drive up the numbers in certain cases. And it's going to make it look like there's way more people getting sick than what the reality is. So that's what they'll do. And yeah, shout out to the last vagabond, because yeah, he used that word case-demics. So you can see, like in Australia, they had, on July 29th, they had 2 daily deaths. 2. And they're going into crazy lockdown mode over 2 deaths. Go ahead, guys.
Shit.
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, man, it's the graphs that they show. Like if you go back to that last one, or if you don't, but if you go back to that last one, I think it might have been the British or the UK joint. They had like 2 waves going up and down, but it's like they show it, and just because of the way that they constructed it, not even looking at the numbers, but you look at the way that they constructed it, looks so extreme. But then, like you said, Chris, you look at the numbers and you look at, okay, all of the people that live in that country, and that's in this, the variant, the Delta variant, this is causing that many deaths, right? It's not a lot when it comes to per capita of the people that are in the country.
Interesting you say that. I wanted to add this real quick. Chris, could you type in my handle from what I've been thinking? That way, this will kind of cover me in a sense. This will be the number.
On Twitter? On Twitter?
Yeah. Put in my Twitter handle in the chat, and that's that percentage that Emmanuel's alluding to. Figure I don't want to say it out loud. That'll make it a little easier to protect us from the censorship we often deal with here on YouTube. Or yeah, just go ahead and show it. Pull it up nice and big so they can see what my handle says.
So 0.21% is that America? Is that America?
Yes. Yes.
And that's mortality rate?
Yes. So I made sure to make that my handle because I want people to ask, what is that number? And that is a factually true number right there. In fact, I actually rounded up to the 700,000 number. And then I actually took the conservative number of the population because it actually ranges from 330 to 350. Now, when you range it up to 350, it drops even lower than that, which I was surprised to find out that the Spanish flu is only 3 times that amount, still being under that point.
Hey, did you guys watch the video? No, I was gonna say, did y'all see the video with Michael Rappaport? I usually don't like, talk about celebrities or whatever, but did you see this video? I thought this shit was funny. Marion just clued me in on it. So listen to it's just very interesting what he says here.
Spreading. We are dealing with a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Okay, you're listening to these dummies on Fox News who are questioning and ridiculing and criticizing the vaccination. I just watched Tony Fauci and CNN and Fox tell me that people with the vaccine, vaccinated people, are now spreading the coronavirus. A couple of days ago, I was, yes, I'm vaccinated. Yeah, a little sticker. Yay, I'm vaccinated. Be a hero, be vaccinated. I went from being a hero because I'm vaccinated, and now you motherfuckers are calling me a super spreader? I'm a fucking super spreader. Figure this shit out.
Yo, he don't look well. He don't look well.
No, he doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't look well.
Sheesh. That man is pale as ever.
Yo, it's so funny. Look, they're even pissing off the vaccinated people. So they're pissing off the vaccinated people while like also trying to start a war between the unvaccinated and vaccinated people. It's like bizarro world out here, kid. That's why I be telling people, just take care of your own. I know everybody be on some save the world shit. Take care of your family and your limited circle, kid, because the Walking Dead is we in it right now. We're gonna go to sleep one day. You're gonna go outside and be like, I don't see nobody. You're gonna look like Rick coming out the hospital.
See, I agree with Marcus. Talking about what is it? There's an indoor. They're trying to do an indoor mask mandate, but at the same time, they're releasing. They're canceling eviction moratoriums, and then so mass evictions are going to happen. You have two conflicting pieces of media. So it's just the contradictions. The contradictions make my head hurt, and I am temporarily living with somebody who also watches CNN every day, who watches mainstream news every day. Yeah, I don't think he watches anything else. It's really kind of depressing. And as far as vaccine passports go, I just think it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous bullshit right there. I just thank the other Emmanuel for calling it what it is. It's just segregation. It's just a way to segregate people. So that's all it is.
No doubt, man. And I was gonna say, I think it might have been Chris or Marcus that mentioned the Spanish flu, Spanish influenza, and it's funny because that was literally 100 years ago before COVID-19. That was 1919, right? Or 1918, 1919, Spanish flu. And I don't know if y'all know about the Red Summer of 1919, from April to November, all the race massacres that happened. This is before Tulsa, obviously, because that was 1921. So in 1919. And so, Chris, it's not odd that during a pandemic, people are acting wild, acting crazy, and that a white woman is just pulling a gun on you for no good reason. But in times of uncertainty of your next day, you know what I mean? Like, that stuff rises out of people. And historically, with the white-black relationship, there's always an antagonism and an aggression towards us in situations like this, man. So it's crazy what these pandemics and tough situations do and how they play out for us, man.
How they said there's like games within a game, right? Like, if you're watching a basketball game, it could be between the Bucks and the Suns, right? But then you can have a game between like Drew Holiday and Chris Paul, right? So with that being said, like, we have the overall pandemic, and now we're at the point of vaccines. You have the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated, and then it's going to break down to, well, who is it who's not getting vaccinated? Who's the biggest group not getting vaccinated? Boom, we right back at the same old bullshit, But unfortunately, the elders in our community, and we got to be real honest, like, they brainwashed, kid. We cannot listen to them. They are very dangerous to listen to. Grandma, auntie, uncle, older cousin, sorry, but y'all been stuck on the couch for too long. Y'all ain't outside no more. You're not in here taking in the right information. You just looking at Facebook and y'all sharing all the worst memes and videos. So it's kind of like when they say, you take it far as I can and then they shall lead. Like, they got us far enough. Like, we really have to take the lead on getting our own people out of or navigating through this mess, because I don't personally think a vaccine mandate is coming. I do not think the government needs to issue a mandate. Only thing they'll do is just tell the businesses, as we're starting to see, they'll just deny service or make them show you something to come in. And it's really going to be that they'll find a way to mandate it, just not through an actual mandate.
Well, that goes into like the video which I did on the other channel not that long ago, where I said mandatory vaccinations are coming. I said it might not be mandatory as in they're going to physically hold you down, but it's going to be mandatory in the sense where, say you've been in the medical field all of a sudden, and literally, I know of hospitals already that are doing this. If you're not vaccinated, you lose your job. And so if you only worked in the medical field for 20, 30 years, what kind of job are you going to be able to make that's going to be equivalent, since you have no experience in any other field? what is going to happen to you? And I said, what they're doing is they're literally saying your livelihood is going to be at stake, and you are going to have to make a hard choice. Do you want to possibly lose everything? And I know a lot of these people, they have children, they have all of these different things going on. So that pressure is really going to be on them. Do they want to? Are they that strong on their fear of the vaccination? Or are they really just are they going to buckle and go ahead and just take it because they don't want to deal with all the consequences that are going to start coming? Because I know consequences are going to start coming.
If you, most are going to fold. I mean, let's face it. If you've got you got a house, you got children, you got bills to pay. I mean, the stress of, working, paying your bills on time is stressful enough. Not working, not paying bills, having your lights cut off, having your car repoed, looking in the fridge, not seeing much in there that is good, having your kids say to you, Daddy, Mommy, I'm hungry. I want to go here. I'm bored. That's a lot to deal with. You know what I mean? And I don't want to I don't want to downplay that, because those are major, major, major things, being able to provide and take care of your family. So we're going to see a lot of people fold, but, just have a little bit of mercy and grace for those people as well, because, look, that's a lot to do, because your lady can end up scraping up the kids and going to mama house. And then you really left by yourself now. So I do just have a little grace and patience with people. We're going to lose some people along the way too. It's just a fact of the matter. You know what I'm saying? But like I always tell people, deal with your own, keep your circle small, and go from there. Try to secure your own food, your own, try to find somebody in the family who's a doctor who's willing to see you outside of the normal, Medicare, Medicaid. Here's my Blue Cross, Blue Shield insurance, and also take responsibility. Start taking care of yourself. You can't be munching down all this fucked up food and then oh, they don't want to take care of me. Stop eating like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, well, I know some of you guys don't mind when I go into my Bible talk, but I figure in this time period, what we're talking about, I figure I just throw out this little bit. For those in the faith community, it says that be prepared for the time of temptation, and also know about Jacob's trouble. And so if you prepare yourself mentally and spiritually for Jacob's trouble, which I feel like we're about to enter into, then you're not going to be worried about all this stuff. And so you got to be prepared that some of the people you love around you are going to fall into this temptation. And whatever happens is going to happen. You just got to stick to your guns on things, even when you feel doubtful and confused, because the propagandists, they've done all the research. They know the algorithms. They know what you view, what information you're reading. They study us so that they can try to manipulate us. And as long as you always keep that in mind, I had to honestly get to the point, and I hope you all really take my advice and go back and check out some of my older videos. I know sometimes people use it to just plug themselves, but these are videos that I really feel like are important. You don't even have to watch most of my videos. It's a handful, and you'll be able to tell by the topics. Like one of them says, are you truly free in your mind? And that's something I really want you all to focus on. We can sit here in one token, because most of the people here kind of would consider themselves leftists or came from the leftist sphere. What we all understand about how the billionaires are doing this, and how all these corporations are doing this, and how they're screwing us over, and how a lot of these major corporations got their money through slavery, and how they're not to be trusted, and how they had Jim Crow, and how they had they even had the what they call the Indian boarding schools, and we know about all of these things they did. They had Mexican Repatriation Act, literally stealing land from people, forcing them out of the land they stole, and just all of the racist policies which they've done to amass all of the wealth. I mean, think about it. Countries like Denmark, a lot of people don't realize That's where they got their net worth for their royal family, from their part in the transatlantic slave trade. And so a lot of these nations would not be nations, would not have the power they had if the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen, or in some cases, even the sub-Saharan slave trade and the Silk Road slave trade, which is often not talked about. If you do some research and you start looking at that Great Wall of China, you'll realize that there were some people with a lot darker skin complexion building up that Great Wall of China, which a lot of people don't realize. So when we start really going into all these different slaveries, and we start understanding how this world got to the point which it is, and how certain people got put at the bottom, we also notice how Europe decided to basically go through Africa and strip every single resource it had from it, and continue to keep the people oppressed. And even still to this day, if you see, there's all kind of videos where economists tell you about how the trade ratio works out of Africa, how they only get pennies on the dollar out of some of those things. So that opens the country up to be manipulated by corruption from Western influences. Is what you normally have. The most corrupt person always rises to the top. It's because that's the only way you're going to rise to the top, dealing with foreign powers, if you're willing to screw over your own people. And so the people always say, well, why are they always corrupt? Because that's the only way you're going to move up. Every time, and look over the past year, I mean, it's been insane how many African leaders have been killed just in the past year. So, I mean, and we can literally look at the Western nations, what they've done. I mean, we don't even have to go back that far. Just look over the past, 100 years, through, the Great Britain, them colonizing half of Asia, and the United States colonizing the other half, throughout all the, Philippine Islands and all that stuff like that, throughout the South Pacific. All of this, and then everybody gets, they get offended or get a little worried, agitated at people like me, Chris, Emmanuel, when we come across a little fiery, or we might, step on people's toes a little. And you got to remember, these people have literally committed genocides on our ancestors for centuries. And we don't even get so much as hey, we're sorry. We don't even get that much. We get, shut up, don't bring it up, don't talk about it. So forgive that. I mean, forgive us for our passion and a little bit of frustration, I feel.
Marcus, bro, imagine someone saying to a rape victim who wants to speak out about their abuser, don't bring that up. That's hate. We don't want to hear that hate and divisiveness. Hey, just stop. Please stop. Mm-hmm. You're offending me by talking about your abuser and how much you don't like them. Imagine somebody saying that to them.
Well, I used to use a reference.
However, mm-hmm. These butthurt, highly suspected white supremacist folks, that's when you know that the racism is there. When you can't even talk about the truth with what you're talking about, everything that you're talking about is facts. Mm-hmm. Now, it hurts to hear it because there's a level of guilt and shame. It's more shame than guilt because you didn't do it, but you feel ashamed that that's a part of your heritage as a white person, even though you see yourself as an individual. Race is a social construct, but it's the results are real. So you are white. You're a part of that group. You receive the privileges, and you also inherit some of the unjust history and the nasty history that comes along with being white. What you're talking about, bro, is the Berlin Conference and all the colonization that happened. All of that is actual facts. You're talking about genocides of people, so many groups of people. There are dozens of groups of people that don't even exist on this planet, that don't even have the opportunity to speak up for what happened to them. You don't hear about the Tasmanian people anymore. You don't hear about Taino people. I mean, there's a few, but most of the Arawakan tribes are wiped off the planet, off the face of the earth. You don't hear about the Herreros anymore. You don't hear about them because they don't exist. Mm-hmm. And God forbid they speak up and talk about what the Germans did to them, what the French did to them, what Berlin and King Leopold did to them, what the United States did to them. God forbid that they say that. Oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. Don't talk about that. You guys are being divisive. Don't talk about race. With all due respect.
Yeah, I mean, you know exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, man.
Let's see. Well, what we got on the screen here, Chris? What we got?
So, look, we're looking at the next former president of Mexico. He's on the list. He's on the list because after you watch this clip, you're gonna see why I say he's gonna be the next former president.
Whoa! What did he say?
They're gonna come after him hard after this. Watch, I'll play it.
What did Obrador say?
Como es lógico, las farmacéuticas quieren hacer negocio y quisieran pues estar vendiendo siempre vacunas para todos, pero tenemos que priorizar, tenemos que saber si se requieren, no se requieren, no estar sometidos, sujetos, subordinados a que las farmacéuticas sean las que nos sigan. Falta una tercera dosis, falta una cuarta dosis, falta que se vacunen los niños.
Hay una poderosa, podríamos decir, campaña de opinión inducida por las compañías farmacéuticas. Si uno explora la prensa, no solamente nacional, sino internacional, y rastrea una recomendación, como pueden ser estas, lo que puede ver es que hay una importante carencia de información científica que apoye una recomendación de esta naturaleza, y en contraste hay declaraciones de, sobre todo, los gerentes generales de las compañías farmacéuticas productoras de vacunas que ya lo dan por un hecho.
So, as you can see, he said basically, it's big pharma making money, and they telling us, now you don't just need 2, now you need a booster shot. And then I think I saw somebody say the other day, you're going to need a booster shot, or you're going to need a shot every 6 months. Basically, they're admitting to you that their product they created does absolutely nothing for you in regards to fighting off a virus. It does absolutely nothing. Because I take it, and then you tell me after several months it weakens, and I have to take it again. I mean, that's some. Yeah. It's like, come on, man, use your common sense. And again, since we were talking about race and things of that nature.
You know about Israel, right? That they're starting to they're getting to the point where they're about to require a 3rd vaccination. Yeah,
and I don't really care what they do to each other. Like, have at it. Go ahead, keep injecting your own people. Not my problem. But as it stands for us here, again, we were talking about race and black folks and da-da-da-da-da. There's so many black people still on this wagon of listening, dog. Like, oh, you should get vaccinated, stay away, wearing masks. And it's just like, when has the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, the United States government, any of these corporations ever care about your black ass?
Well, what I would say, Chris, actually is, if you break it apart throughout the generations, older black people are far more likely to, be pushing this. And I feel like it's the amount of, I guess, what we call it, the PMC, the professional managerial class of black people, they're pushing this narrative. But because I feel like voices like ours are more silenced, they're just not hearing the pushback. Because if you look at the numbers, they keep always talking about the Republicans, right-wingers, evangelicals, and they keep pushing that narrative. Because actual number-wise, yes, that's the largest number. But if you look at per capita and percentages, black and brown people, I'll say blacks and Latinos, because Native Americans are pretty high as far as getting vaccinated. But black and brown people are really high as far as not being vaccinated. It's almost literally a complete flip of what you see between the white and Asian and Native American population. Those 3 groups are highly vaccinated. Blacks and Latinos are very low vaccinated. And so when I'm hearing all this mandatory, what's not being brought up is Now they're trying to force black and brown people to get vaccinated. And you're basically saying, hey, black and brown people, we're going to throw you out of work and ban you from grocery stores and basically segregate you because you don't want to take the vaccination. And so I don't think people are even noticing this racial tone that sits on the back of this whole issue. I guess let me clarify something real quick. It looks like that what was it? Variant was asking. Variant said, didn't know that about Gaddafi and Pharma. Gaddafi more was speaking. She was saying that was reminiscent of Gaddafi because it wasn't that he was talking about pharmaceuticals. He was talking about another issue. And that other issue, man, I'm trying to figure the best way to talk about this without getting us yanked down by literally, I could say the wrong word, just mentioning this story. And it can get this whole thing.
He was talking about like the financial type stuff, right? Like,
yes and no. Yes and no. This is literally talking about a former leader who was assassinated for wanting to look into a certain nation's their nuclear program.
Man, let's just say, man,
fuck it, try it in May. If they yank us, they yank us. You guys better watch it live because they might pull this.
They was talking about the land of Palestine. Let's just say that. We could say it that way. Therefore, nobody can be offended. But yeah, look, let me play this video real quick because there he goes.
You already know that JDL doesn't like me. You already know that.
Correct.
Terrorism in the wrong way. Today, there is swine flu. Perhaps tomorrow there'll be fish flu. Because sometimes we produce viruses by controlling them. It is a commercial business. Capitalist companies produce viruses so that they can generate and sell vaccinations. This is very shameful and poor ethics. Vaccinations and medicine should not be sold. In the Green Book, I maintain that medicines should not be sold or subject to commercialization. Medicines should be free of charge and vaccinations given free to children. The capitalist companies produce the viruses and vaccinations and want to make a profit. Why are they not free of charge? We should give them free of charge, not sell them. The entire world should strive to protect our people, create and manufacture vaccinations, and then give them for free to children and women and not profit by them. All those items are on the agenda of the General Assembly, which has to exercise that duty.
So I'll stop it. I'll stop it there for now. But as you can see, that guy Gaddafi was on the total opposite end of the spectrum from everything the capitalists and the world rulers wanted to do, which meant that his days were numbered. And keep in mind, like, he was saying these things, but he still allowed the CIA to run black sites in his country too, and they were locking people up there. So before we all say like, oh, how great he was, I do admire some of the things he did, stuff like that, but he still played the game too. Granted, maybe some of it was for survival, but dog, you can't be allowing black sites people getting tortured in your country and you looking the other way. And they still do you dirty anyway. So stand on your feet, die on your feet, than to live on your knees. I mean, I don't know why that's so difficult.
Piracy, man-made and natural epidemics, and nuclear proliferation. Perhaps influenza H1N1 was a virus created in a laboratory that got out of control, originally being meant as a military weapon. Such challenges also include hypocrisy, poverty, fear, materialism, and immorality. As is known, the United Nations was founded by 3 or 4 countries against Germany at the time. The United Nations was formed by the nations that joined together against Germany in the Second World War. Those countries formed a body called the Security Council, made its own countries permanent members, and granted them the power of veto. We were not present at that time. The United Nations was shaped in line with those 3 countries and wanted us to step into the shoes originally designed against Germany. That is the real substance of the United Nations when it was founded.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right. I'm gonna stop it here. Yeah, L, that came courtesy of L. Thanks for reminding people about that clip. You know, it's not.
Make sure to put it in the comment.
Correct. You know what's actually funny is that they say they're creating these viruses for like warfare. Well, I guess it's just warfare against the populace, because the way technology is these days, you're not going to have tens of thousands of men with guns in the field. It's going to be people in bunkers controlling drones and people putting down IEDs. So to the extent that they were created for, like as a military weapon, to use against another country's army, well, they just gonna use that shit against us. It's not gonna be against their army. Those countries are doing their own shit to their own people, you know?
Oh, sorry about that. I was looking at something. You know what? I'll just go ahead and say it, and whoever can find it, put it find this video and put it into. Actually, Chris, did I sing you that video about JFK? Okay. Anybody out there, look up BitChute and look up JFK and look up nuclear programs. And see if there's a video which pops up about 6 minutes long on BitChute. And if you can, just put that in the chat so that everybody can be able to look that video up. I find it very interesting. Like, it was one angle which I never heard about the JFK assassination. And it had to do with, you know, a lot of times when we think about the nation of Cuba or Cuba, we just think about Cubanos, and we don't think about possible other governments which could have been involved with people in that nation, which were really the people which were driving it, not necessarily people of that nation. So when we think about the Cuban Missile Crisis and things like that, sometimes there's a little bit more information that we're not always factoring into, or we've never thought about that missing piece of the puzzle. So I say just take a peek into some of these things. Look at them with a very open mind first. Don't take everything, you know, everything that you get right off the bat. Don't just suck it all in, but pay attention to this information. Yes, that's the video there. I definitely recommend, you know, screenshotting it, keeping it, checking that video out. Let's see. Oh, and I guess Emmanuel, anything you'd like to say? I guess we can get ready to close it out. Anything you'd like to plug that you have coming up? Definitely, I'd like to hear more about your business. and let people out there in the chat know.
No doubt, man. Coming up September 29th, I'm launching Know Your Enemy 3.0. So once again, it's professional development, but really, man, just professional and personal development. Know your enemy, the evolution of racism. And I titled it Know Your Enemy. And first of all, it's an 8-week digital course with a cohort, a group of like 10 to 12 folks. There's about 7 in the group right now. It's filling up a little bit quicker than I thought. So if y'all looking to get into it, go to check out my website, emmanuelwilliams.co. That's emmanuelwilliams.co. You can learn more about it. And then feel free to email me, ypdevelopment2030@gmail.com. But, I created the course because, racism is what I talk about on the podcast a lot, but it's like I need to give it to folks in a concentrated form. And I feel like for me, I know that, I've been trying to figure out what is race, what is racism, and why is it such a strong divider and or connector of people? Why is this such a big deal? You know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm Black in America. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, one of the whitest cities in the country. You know what I mean? Like, I know what racism is. I know what it feels like, but I don't know why it plays out the way that it does. Like there was no class in elementary, middle, high school, college that said, this is how you be racist. But I know that racism exists. There is no class that said, this is how racism came to be. I don't know how it came to be, but we all know that it exists. So I'm like, all right, but how and why? And so I dug into history and I go back to the 1400s and I take us all the way up to the present day and show us, constructive evolution of how this happened, from what was happening in Europe, what happened when, Christopher Columbus and the Spaniards came to the West Indies and what they did over here. And then I'll talk about colonialism and the laws. I'll talk about really the laws in New York, Virginia, and Maryland. Those laws still today affect us to this day as far as police brutality, segregation, and just overall how Black folks are treated. Even, certain laws in New York that made it illegal for more than three Black people to congregate in one area. That was illegal, which means that if you were a fan of 3 or more Black people were found in an area, they could be whipped or, potentially killed. So it's like certain things like that. I talk about that and I just go all the way up into the present day because I feel like racism is our biggest enemy. It's an invisible enemy. It's something that we can't really hold down, but we try to have these talks about racism. We try to, create diversity in our organizations or in our schools, or we try to help all these efforts to mitigate racism, but we really don't know what it is and we don't know how deep it is. And so if we think it's some shallow thing that is just prejudice, if we think that everybody can be racist, then we'll never get down to the root of the problem because racism is white supremacy. Racism is systematic prejudice, antagonism, and discrimination towards non-white people. It's a system and it takes all areas of activity into account: economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And if you don't know what racism is and how it works, everything else that you think you understand is only going to confuse you. And so I say, know your enemy, know what the ideology of racism is. And one of my favorite quotes and one of the reasons why I titled it Know Your Enemy is from Sun Tzu. So it says, if you know yourself and know your enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. And if you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will succumb in every battle. Now, a lot of us are in that middle stage. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. Yeah, you might have knowledge of self. You might be secure in who you are. You got knowledge, but you don't know the enemy. You don't know the system of racism and how it works in all of those areas of activity. And if you don't know how to reverse the effects of all those areas, if you don't know how to divest from those areas and reframe them and repackage them so that they work for you and not against you, if you don't actively do that, the system is going to consume you because it's on autopilot. It's been here before you. It's going to be here after you. And it's fucked you up and it's going to fuck your kids up if you don't do anything to combat it. And so long story less long, man, that's what I do. That's my passion. And that's what universal professional development is all about. So once again, I already got 7 spots filled up. I got 5 more left. We do it on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific. Hit me up. Once again, EmmanuelWilliams.co.
Sweet. I mean, I'm definitely gonna have you back more often. I figure a lot of people that way it'll give more people an opportunity to, hear and be exposed to your content. I know they're throttling you back. I've seen it. I mean, I was looking at your channel and I noticed how they're throttling you back. So, I definitely want to like what I try to tell people about this also is with people who want to go against teaching any kind of so-called critical race theory, which I just call teaching actual history. By sugarcoating it like that, what you do is you create a 2-part society educationally. You have one part of the society is completely blind to the history that's happened. So completely blind to the trauma which they've done. So completely blind to the anger also that would be coming from them from some of those people. And so all you're doing is setting for, I feel like a more chaotic situation, because now you're going to have more incendiary and more offensive thought because they don't even realize how they've wronged you. I mean, before Emmanuel brought up how, well, I guess I'll just use my analogy. How I look at it is you're in a relationship and that person you're with beats you and they don't even want to acknowledge it. They say, hey man, that was old. I know I beat you up the other day, but just get over it. And then we could just forget. But that person who was beaten up, I mean, Emmanuel used a rape analogy, but that person who was beaten up, they can't forget that they were beaten up. I mean, and so to try to skip over it. And on top of that, I mean, we can go so deep into all the different layers of how they've manipulated the educational system. But just the mindset where some white people will literally just argue with any black person trying to bring out information because they've been so conditioned that black person can't know more than I know about this. And you can be any just random white person in that mentality a lot of times that I automatically know more than this black person. That's because of the society that we live in, that has trained you that most black people don't know anything. That's the reason why you still have people saying to people like Obama, who are in the elite class, oh, he speaks so well. Because if you have a media which only wants to portray you in a negative light and never want to show, the people who speak eloquently, the people who can, sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied, but the people who can actually process these complicated things that are going on through history and understand it and try to teach it to their people so they can have this knowledge to fight back against this oppression. These voices are silenced, and it's not accidental. It's not an accident that, oh, Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society are some of our biggest movies, but you never hear anything else, or Tyler Perry movies. That's not an accident. It's not an accident that you can have, more people who want to come out and be, NWA or talk about popping Molly and doing Xanax and all that. You can get a record real quick. But if you want to start talking about learning about the Moors and how they ruled in Europe, that kind of rapper, we don't need to hear your content. The one who's going to say, you know what, let's stop killing each other in the gangs and let's try to build, organizations and communities. You're not going to hear that message. And you look at what this government has always done. Anytime our people have tried to speak out and say anything, they had to be silenced. I mean, I'll keep going back to this because I just saw it recently. But Billie Holiday and singing of Strange Fruit. I mean, they wanted to destroy this woman, and they eventually did destroy this woman because she sung a song that reminded them. And it wasn't even like it was, oh, she's bringing up some old stuff. Black people were still getting hung literally at the same time she's singing this song. And that's what people like J. Edgar Hoover, who, if you look back to it, that's why I say, people can say, well, I mean, it's not all white people. It doesn't have to be all. Look at the damage which J. Edgar Hoover did himself. Look at how many black people, which he destroyed, how many black leaders this one man destroyed on his own. And that's what I'm saying. All it takes is to get one in a place of power. And then what happens to all the rest of the people who are up under them? They all fall in line. Hey, man, I mean, it's just how it is. It's just what I have to do.
Jay, though. It wasn't just Jay. He was at the head. He was the face. He was the quarterback, but he had a whole team. He had an offensive line, defensive line.
That's what I'm saying. It's not hard for him to build that team.
He had the whole government that didn't do anything about it.
And then on top of that, you see movies like Black Messiah, and what happened at the beginning of that Billie Holiday movie, where they literally sent in some, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to say it. YouTube, do whatever you want to, but some of these coon-ass Negroes who sell out their own damn people just to get ahead in this white supremacist world, or just to get the boot off of their neck a little bit. These are the type of people who the government used to destroy us time and time again. And this literally goes all the way up to the upper levels, to the White House. Because, I mean, think about it. Not that long ago, we literally had a president which showed, Birth of a Nation in the White House, a movie about the KKK, literally, praising them in a positive light and showing black people as if they're out to rape all the white women. That's what one of our literal presidents did. And then we literally have people who come out and talk about Trump is the most racist president we've ever had. You fucking shitting me? Seriously? That's the dumb shit you say now? We literally have a good half of our presidents that literally physically owned slaves. Some of them taking pride in putting, stuff which burned into the wounds, like brine and alcohol and all kind of things into the wound. We have one of our famous presidents who raped a good number of his women. That's the reason why a lot of Black Americans have a bloodline attached to Thomas Jefferson. We have Andrew Jackson, who literally was killing multiple redcoats and Native Americans and slaves with his own bare freaking hands. And you all want to be all belly aching and bitching about Trump? I'm sorry. I meant to try to wrap up, but I started getting aggravated about this stupid system. Emmanuel, it's your fault. I'm blaming it on you.
Hey man, I'll take the blame, man. That's what I'm here for, bro.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to do some talking after we get off. Chris, Maverick, we got anything you guys would like to add, or let the people know about? I know, Emmanuel, you did bring up about the what was it? The eviction moratorium. And so I was wondering, can you elaborate a little bit more on that before we get out of here?
Okay, well, it technically did expire at midnight, I guess, Eastern Standard Time. The government is doing their little performative display, but as we all know, mass evictions are probably going to definitely happen. It's been bugging me for a little while. It's been bugging me all day today. So let me be clear. They are fast. They are brutal. Everything that they do to try to stop it is just performance. It's all performance. It's all a song and a dance, because evictions are big business. Arresting people is big business. I mean, they want the house. They want to sell your stuff. It's not about respectability. It's about money, pure and simple. So don't expect any mercy from the manufacturers or the realtors or the police or any of them people. I don't care how the media or the social media or the press or politicians play it out. It is brutal. It is an immense form of violence. It does affect you emotionally, physically, mentally. So believe me, I've been worried about it. I continue to be worried about it, even though I am safe. I do not know how it will affect. Of course, this will affect Black and brown people infinitely more than probably any other group of people. So be prepared. It is coming. Biden is not coming to save you. The police are not coming to save you. The politicians sitting outside the Capitol building are not coming to save you. So please, please, please pay attention and look out for each other, because you do not want to be on the bad end of an eviction. That's all I really had to say.
Funny, L put this here for a little bit of levity and humor. Sorry about bringing up Elvis. I just really don't like that dead guy. I wonder, you know what? Actually, hold on a second. I'm gonna try to send Chris something because she brought up Elvis. I thought it was kind of funny. So bear with me for 1 second. I'll be right back.
Where did Mark? Oh, that's right. He said he'd be right back because he's gonna go look up something.
LD,
But
no, I was going to ask if she heard about the what is it? Comparing Elvis to America. And somebody said Elvis. You compare Elvis to America. We've just about like forget it. I had it. It was. They were doing some documentary about Elvis, and Elvis was and they would compare Elvis to America, and if Elvis is the representation of America, then we're just about to OD on the toilet or something like that. But that was like 5 years ago, so yeah. But I thought that was pretty funny since she decided to bring up Elvis.
Yeah, I don't know.
You got to keep the party going, huh?
Correct. Yeah, I don't know what. I don't know much about Elvis. I mean, it's just kind of like we know who music he took, you know, whose style he took, but you know that happens today. You know what I'm saying? They steal the swag, and you know, then they run along with it. You know what happens? Every once in a while, though, some of them come along who have talent. Like M, can't hate on that dude. He spits. You know, as much as I see people always, you know, try to make that argument against Eminem, it's like, yo, but dude really raps. Like, he raps. You don't have to like him, but he raps. He's good at the art of rapping. You know, like he's only rapped with the illest guys. You know, for the most part. All right, there you go. We filibustering, as they say.
Good job. I had to bring this up because L brought up Elvis. This was while I was on vacation while I'm in town down in Long Beach. Do you see it yet, Chris?
Oh yeah. This dude has a picture of him and Elvis dancing. No good, Marcus. You're gonna lose your stripes messing with that.
Go on ahead and put it up. They'll be all right.
Let me save it and share it. Hold on. Yeah, let me just send it. I gotta send it. Send a DM. Okay, there we go.
Bro, if you moving your hips in a play, man, I don't know how much more collaboration we can.
Yo, that's funny.
No, man, nothing like that. Now, I got the perfect dance move for him, though.
Here goes Marcus. He's about to embarrass himself. Thank God it's a still picture, Marcus, and it's not a video.
Yes, that's what I think of Elvis.
Oh, you was kicking him. I thought you was dancing.
Oh, yeah. Zooming in. You can see.
Oh, yeah. You was kicking him. Oh, okay. Oh wow.
He wasn't ready for the kid and play dance. That's what that was.
We ain't gonna hurt nobody. Oh man, that was a good movie too. I love them shits. Class act. All the movies. I thought it was the kid and play. Yeah, exactly. No, at first I thought he was trying to dance with the dude, but then now I see, he's giving him the business, the good kind of business.
Oh yeah. I mean, the exact way I would like to salute him if I ever got to see him in person.
Exactly.
You fucking thief. That's what I do.
All right, man. So Marcus, take us out of here, man. Everybody, thanks for coming in, staying with us. Emmanuel, E-Dub, it was good to have you. E, I hope to see you next week on camera. L, I don't know why you be hiding from the smoke. You need to bring your ass on the screen. Stop ducking and dodging. The Fed's gonna get you anyway. So you may as well just go have fun.
She's screwed.
Yeah, just come on in.
All right, go ahead and mute real quick, Chris.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I tell her, I said, we've already realized that, hey, we're like the renegades. We already on the list. So they coming after you, L, just because you with us. So you going down regardless. So you might as well say, hey, put your chin out and say, hey, take your best shot at us. So I am so happy that we were able to have, Emmanuel Williams, from Socks and Sandals come over, bless us with his presence here, break down some of his videos, give us, I guess a reframing and paying attention to what reality we're actually sitting and living in, so that some of us don't get complacent. Just because you might not be experiencing something don't mean a lot of your people and friends and family aren't in other areas. Just because they haven't told you don't mean that they're not going through it in some other way, fashion, or form. But this has been the Political Matrix. I'm your host, Young Morpheus, here with my good brother Cy Lawson, the Blue Maverick, and then we have Elle. She's in the chat tonight. We were trying something out a little bit different, just testing something out. I want you all on social media to prod and annoy Elle. I'm not going to force her to do anything, but prod and annoy her to get her to come on the stream. She's a little bit weirded out about Google trying to get her data, but they're going to do it anyway. There's no way around it. They are coming for us. I mean, we literally probably got somebody assigned to each one of us at this point. I mean, if they're getting to the point where they're literally cutting our views in half and they throttle stuff, and like, I didn't see Mona tonight, but that's probably why they hide her all the time. She all the time can't find our channel. So those who were able to be here with us, and many of you guys hung in the whole full 3 hours like champs. So very, 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 impressed and proud of the chat out there. Appreciate it, especially those on the East Coast, or even those across the pond, which may be in Europe and places where it's even later or earlier, depending on where you are. So that said, I appreciate you all. Make sure to tune in with us next week. Make sure to catch all of my different content, which I'm doing, whether it's on this channel, The Political Matrix, What I've Been Thinking with Marcus Cage, or my Hebrew Apologetics channel. I got some stuff that I got cooking on the Hebrew Apologetics channel, and I'll just let people know that if you're sensitive, it's getting to the point where the content is gonna not be for you. I'm just gonna be telling stuff how I see the history, the archaeology, how the evidence stacks up, and what I read from the Bible's book, chapter, verse, and prophecy. So if that gets to a point where you can't understand it, and I'm going to give my disclaimer so you all know how I view on it, and I'm going to, for a little extra clarity, because some things it's going to take a little explaining, and some people are not patient at hearing the matter all the way out. So I will have to do some paraphrasing for some of you guys who don't have the patience, but make sure to check that out. I have a video coming up on I won't say the topic. but it's a two-parter, and it's a big, it's going into actual slavery and some things we don't know about it. People who are not often looked at and their roles and impacts into the transatlantic slave trade, sub-Saharan slave trade, Silk Road slave trade, and then going all the way back into the Romans and other things. So we're going to get into all that stuff. I got more videos coming explaining out some of the major nations and understanding who are you possibly and where you fit in this whole giant story we call life. So that said, this has been the Political Matrix. So glad to have you all here. You all have a great weekend. Try to be safe out there. Try not to go crazy, and watch out for these weirdos and nut jobs out there in the world. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.
Marcus, Chris, I appreciate